After you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you all for coming. We know that this is an important meeting for the community, and so we appreciate turnout. Before we get into roll call, just two comments I want to make. While my process, along with asking the city, was, oh, great, we're finally at phase 4, so we can go back to the regular type of HRC meeting, which is like this. And then later on, because I kept getting contacted by individuals that were saying, yeah, but you know what, I can't attend, or you know, that type of thing. And because of the concern and the interest, I tried to see if we could then just at least do a Zoom broadcast. It was too late for the public notice. So we are recording it, and we'll have that available, as apparently has been done by some other commissions. So I apologize for that, and I want to make sure there are no members that have an objection to recording the meeting. You know.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to make one, I'm sorry, Martin.
Sure.
It seems to me that the time we need to wear the masks most is when we're talking. And I know that's awkward, but I would ask that everyone not pull down their mask to talk.
Okay, sure.
Sort of defeats the whole.
So noted.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, just so it's aware, the city traditionally, the FAC Commission is the only one that we had recorded in the past via audio recording. So that is what I think you're alluding to, but I just wanted to at least clarify that.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Let's
Well,
do,
Larry, I'm sorry. Since we're talking about that, we have an email from Mark. Is that,
Shabbat.
yeah, were you addressing, because I think he raised some of those concerns.
We, I was gonna take all these late receiving emails or written recommendations and take them all together, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, his concern was about the taping of the meeting. I thought it was relevant to what you were saying. So I don't know if you read it. He was wondering why there was no Zoom, but you kind of covered that.
Yeah.
But because his email speaks to that, I thought you might just want to.
If there's no objection, then sure, I'll have it read so we can enter it. This is an email that was sent at 4:06 p.m. today to Jason Blumenthal at the city, and it is from Mark Charvat, and he is saying, as a taxpaying citizen of DeKalb, I am requesting that the audio and/or audio video from tonight's Human Relations Committee meeting be recorded by the City of DeKalb and posted on the City of DeKalb website / YouTube channel. It is my understanding the city does not plan to Zoom tonight's meeting, and with COVID-19 health concerns, I believe it's important that citizens have access to tonight's proceedings. Many individuals are unable to attend due to concerns with COVID-19. As this is a public meeting, I believe access to the discussion taking place at this meeting is vitally important. When I spoke with Jason Blumenthal this afternoon, he told me there were no plans to even provide such a recording. In addition, I spoke with HRC Chairman Larry Apperson, who expressed interest in also having this meeting recorded and posted. I'm well aware that the City of DeKalb does have the ability to either video record or audio record public meetings. In fact, the Finance Advisory Committee, back when we used to have this committee, does have the ability to either video record or audio record public meetings. In fact, the Finance Advisory Committee, back when the committee used to meet, held its meetings in the same location as tonight's Human Relations Committee meeting in the conference room at the police department. The FAC meetings were not televised live, however. The city of DeKalb was able to video record the meeting so the public would have access to the discussions. I'm well aware the city has the technology to video record and/or audio record meetings. So I'm requesting that the city record this evening's Human Relations Committee meeting and make that recording available to the public. If there is a valid reason as to why such a recording cannot be made, I would ask you to respond with specifics as to the reason why. There is great interest by the public in the discussions as it relates to the Human Relations Committee and the topics being discussed. Signed, Mark. And as I think the record already indicates, we are recording this meeting. And I have talked with Mark I think at least once today. Okay, can we move to approval of the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we did already. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Apperson,
Present.
Mr. Barrow,
Present.
Ms. Franklin,
Present.
Mr. Gasker,
Present.
Mr. Gilbert,
Present.
Ms. King.
Here.
6 present.
Okay, thank you. The next thing is to approve the agenda. I know we all got this in advance. I don't know if anyone has changes or anything.
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Second by Lisa. Okay, thank you. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, opposed, same sign. All right, then we also received the June 16th special meeting minutes. I hope you've had a chance to look those over. As if you're needing to review anything, I would certainly like to thank Jason for his good written typing skills in trying to record so many of the community recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to recognize Ms. Rouse as well as Mr. Grubbs. They did a lot of the heavy lifting as well as a team
Oh.
effort, so I can't take all credit for it. sir.
Okay. All right, well, thank you all. That was extremely helpful, as best as could be done, to get the statements that were expressed recorded as accurately as we could. And we'll talk more about that later. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A second? Second from Dave, okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Public participation. There may be some individuals that would like to make a statement. We'd ask that you try to keep it focused on the agenda topic. But go ahead, this young lady over here. Could you
Yeah.
stand, state your name
Yeah.
so we can record it?
My name is Vivian Mead, and I'm one of the organizers of Black Lives Matter. First off, I'm gonna touch again on, with this not being on Zoom. I know that we kind of went into phase 4, but this should have been discussed and addressed to the public. This is a human relations committee. Human relations community. There's a lot of people in this community that wanted to be on the Zoom call tonight. You could have posted something on Facebook and said like, hey, this is what we're doing. I don't know. Second, these meetings should not be held in a police department. I agree. I absolutely agree. They should not be held here. I mean, it's the fact that you have to come upstairs, the fact that you have to come into a police department, and the fact that I was looked at so hard by somebody standing in the lobby and made me uncomfortable, that's not okay. We cannot make change in this community if we are not going to the community. This is not okay. So in the future, I think it should be at a community center that's bipartisan for everybody, not police station, and not what makes white people feel comfortable.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. You know how, sort of by default right now, this is actually the city's, I believe, largest space. And in recognition of the COVID stuff, we felt we should hold it at their current largest space. But your point is well taken, that we should look at another facility or something that is larger even, and so we could, do that. Yeah.
Wasn't your previous meeting held up in the DeKalb Library?
The library's room is not as big as this. That's what I've been told. Any other, I think Bessie, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I do. I have, and I will, David, if you want to come and take this, then you could just give it to him. That's a hard copy that I'm sure you should each get a copy of a program in Oregon. It was posted on Black Lives Matter, and it's very, very interesting. This program involves the combination of, for lack of a better word, policing and mental health and social workers working together for the community. Phenomenal program. It's apparently been around for 30 years. So it's worth looking at because it really looks like something that we could utilize. I also tried to, and I'm directing this more to staff, email this as an attachment to the city council, but I'm not sure if they got it because during my time online today, I remember seeing that this attachment cannot be forwarded because it's outside the city, whatever. So all this time, if I've ever given an attachment to the council, they haven't been getting it. Wow. One more pushback for lack of public participation. And I agree with what you're saying. I understand the sensitivity of holding something close to, but this is all we have right now. For better or for worse. We had a city hall, but that's a whole other story, which I was glad to see talking about. That was taken away from us real nicely. And also, I promised Mr. Rubin that this would be given to you, so I don't know what you want me to do with it. It is something from Beth Shalom, a group of people.
We did get that.
We have we have got
And I
it.
promised him that I would get that to you. Because anymore, I'm not really sure what always gets to you. So, and as far as the recording, there is absolutely no reason why this was not Zoom. I was told that the decision to do this, to not Zoom, was made way back on Thursday. I don't know who made that decision, but that was not a good decision. That is not conducive to public input, and that's what this is all about. And I'm tired of having to beg for that information. I'm gonna go back and sit over here, so I'm gonna roll.
Bessie,
Yeah.
just to respond, I've got a copy of this, and we'll get copies, made so that we're sure if you were saying that you wanted the council to receive it, I misunderstood you.
No.
That we'll make sure.
I just promised him that I
Yeah.
would make sure that you had,
Yeah, yeah,
that it was given to you.
Yeah.
It's very
Thank you.
moving. It
Right.
brings back a lot of memories about the initiatives that have gone on.
And it seems to be a very successful program for that city.
Well, that's
Yeah,
something we should look at.
yes.
I just want to echo that I think this absolutely must be done on Zoom. At this point, there is no excuse for all the city's meetings to be on Zoom. It's appropriate for public participation and to allow an inclusive environment where people can observe it. Even if we weren't in COVID-19 times, the modern technology and the ease of access really suggests there's no reason this can't be done on Zoom, no matter what. Secondly, the police station location, I agree, we need to find an alternative. And I understand what you said, that this is the biggest one. It seems to me this is about the same size as the library. It's very close. I understand you want to allow as many people to come in person as possible, but if we did it on Zoom, the size of the room would no longer be relevant. So I just want to echo those, I think that's critical, and that's something we have to learn to shift to and change with the times.
Thank you. Yes? okay.
I just want to echo all of their
Excuse me,
comments.
could you state your name? so
I'm
we have-
sorry, Amber Quitnell. I'm a citizen of Sycamore, but I'm in DeKalb frequently. Everything that happens in Sycamore, you know, or happens in DeKalb affects us in Sycamore and vice versa. And I want to echo, I've been attending all of the Zoom meetings and city hall meetings, county board meetings, and the technology is there. And to have a meeting asking for reform of the public safety system when you're actually presenting points of deep concern about police brutality and excessive force, to hold that meeting in a police department is extremely intimidating to some people. And I find that it's inexcusable, to be honest with you. I think it's inexcusable when you have Zoom technology, especially in the middle of a pandemic, to make people come into a room together. When you have this technology, I just want to echo that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Erin McNeil, and I'm here tonight to just hopefully see some leadership and pushing leadership to do the right thing. These are not brand new issues. These are not brand new issues. They've been around for decades, and the fact that you need residents to bring it up over and over and over again is really just showing a huge lack of leadership. I would have expected the people in power to have stood up a long time ago and shown that they're gonna lead the way, that Cal's gonna lead the way on making these changes. So that's what I wanna see. I don't wanna see, oh, we should do this, we should do that, maybe someday. I don't want my kids here in 20 years dealing with these same issues. So I'm really here to watch and see that there's some changes made.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Personally, I'm sick of hearing excuses like, oh, we don't have a room big enough.
Could
I'm
you
sorry.
please state your
I'm
name?
sick of hearing excuses
No,
like,
I
you don't.
need your name for the record.
My name is
too.
Emily, hi.
Thank you.
I'm a resident of DeKalb. I'm sick of hearing excuses like we don't have a room that's big enough. You know what you're doing, holding this meeting in the police department. There are over 100 people involved in all those Zoom calls. There are people interested in this, and there are people that actively wanted to come but could not come because they don't know if they have warrants out on them. So you are alienating a large portion of the people that are specifically trying to get their demands met just by having it here. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. I think we can move to the old business agenda item, the police community relations, building a better community. The first aspect of that is as brief a review of the community recommendations as we can do. If individuals would like any copies, this will be the pre-public one put out on the website, but, yeah, but if anybody would like to.
I've got an extra one here too.
No, I've got a few more
Oh,
here
okay.
too.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
What?
Mr. Chairman, just so they know, this isn't the backup material of the agenda that was posted, just so you know.
Oh, I didn't realize that, I'm sorry. For those here, I just was informed by Jason that this document was one of the backup materials that was a part of the agenda that was publicly sent out. And just a very brief background, what we attempted to do, and we're probably not 100% accurate, is take the community forums, the town halls, the Black Lives Matters list of demands, the HRC special meeting recommendations. We just felt very strongly that we should really, someone should put together as best we could all the recommendations we could get our hands on. okay? So this is not a document, it's more like the beginning of a reference document that is open to anyone. You may not see your exact recommendation wording, but you might see that there's been 3 people that had the same recommendation. So, excuse me. We then, with the help of Nadine Franklin here, we said, okay, we're not going to, if we're going to put together one document that's closest to having as many of the recommendations that the community has made, let's try to find out thematically, where do they sort of all group? So we did that, and you'll see the major centered titles, and those are titles that we found that in the campaign0.com group, they were pretty close to what we had figured out as categories. So we borrowed a few of their phrases and stuff and put the categories together. The one reason that we liked the Campaign 0 group was not because there aren't a ton of other groups that have got similar kinds of listings, etc., but because we found it sort of captured most of the recommendations we had, that it just seemed like a good place, to start. The other thing that you'll note that we are sure that we missed somebody's recommendation, and it was particularly difficult in some instances to actually catch, be it a Zoom meeting or whatever, all of the words that were said within that recommendation, but we did our best. And with that in mind, you'll simply see that we've got a group that was all the mental health personnel to respond to the nonviolent calls. And you'll see some of the statements that were put under those. And then there was a lot of comment about the transfer of dollars to increase support for social services. So we've listed those types of things. There was, I think, one of the largest categories of responses we heard were under the limit use of force, let's demilitarize the police and increase the community policing. In other words, it really was the community saying, we have to make this transition. And these were key components of making that transition. Then, and you see it was the longest one, then, it was broken down into the use of force and the limits on the use of force, the demilitarization, and then moving to more community-based policing strategy. And I would just pause here and say, as I think all of us are saying, well, that one could also go under this one. That's true. And what we did is we simply put them someplace, we want. And the best place we thought. Then we had the independent investigations and prosecutions. Basically, individuals in this community want to make sure that there are not individuals that know the police officer, etc., to be the ones really being in judgment of with the investigations and the outcomes. And training is one that is seems to be a constant that this community has asked for a number of years. The HRC has 3 years ago begun on that and got some things started, and the city is continuing, as I know, to try to structure a way to get this done. The community oversight and representation is, come on, we have to have community members involved in more of the oversight and obviously represented more in groups. The end of police involvement in creating revenue or costing cities for their violations of constitutional rights. There was not very many at all talking about the revenue creating stuff. That didn't seem to be a major issue with most of the community. And you can see that little topic, if you're interested in more information on that, the Campaign Zero goes into that much more because they, in their national focus, apparently found that to be a problem. The other one, the investment in social services, recreation, the housing lease, all the economic and poverty conditions, et cetera, with education. There was a good feeling aside from investing into community policing. The community also said, we've got to invest more in the social service resources and job location, a common lease, things that are going to help individuals that have identified these struggles. And the police contract changes, many said that they want to have the city look into the police contract to kind of review it for any of the things that are listed here.
I'm sorry, Larry, where are you?
I'm sorry, I'm on page 9, police contract.
All right.
And the last one was kind of those ones that we weren't quite sure what specifically they were recommending to do about the issue, but we felt it very important to list the general category. Particularly, you'll notice at the end, number 5 and number 6 of that, there is a chord that I think struck many of us on the commission, that whatever changes we do that are more focused on the police, their processes, their interventions, or what have you, will probably not be complete unless we also, at some point soon, because some national groups have already started, addressing the unjust incarceration rates, the justice system and its needs for changes, so that what we heard was you've got the most immediate concerns, which were focused on changes to our policing practices. And then we just think we shouldn't all forget that there are changes in the criminal justice system, the incarceration of individuals, and that is going to have to be addressed too. Now, we're all aware that a lot of that is a county level, the state, and even the federal, and we know that there are some individuals or groups that are trying to change something. But I think we may have to attend to that also. So that's the document. It's imperfect. It didn't capture everyone, but we hope that at least we now all can share a common document. And I'm sure there will be groups or others that will say, you know, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. I want to make one correction. I thought you were talking about the Black Lives Matter demands. That was what was in the agenda packet.
Oh.
This one was not. However, I will upload it.
Okay,
and get
okay.
it out.
I'm sorry, we misspoke. The packet that was a part of tonight's agenda was the Black Lives Matters document. This document we're going to get put out. Okay. I encourage anyone, if you think something has been missed, or, you know, by all means, I think, and I hate to offer Jason, but I think he's the best person to send in a short email and say, I think this was missed, and here's the statement that I think, you know, we missed. We're glad to do
I
that.
just have a question.
Sure.
How closely is this, taken from Campaign Zero?
It is not.
Or but following Campaign Zero? That was just a question. Compare our police practices to those of Campaign Zero practices. So does that,
We first knew that we needed to look at them all, read them, and say, okay, these four seem to go under all this use of force, you know, stuff. And we then were wanting to make it easy for the community, or even for us, or the city, to be able to Google these terms, because there are many other organizations that have lots to say about the types of recommendations we put under this particular category. In that regards, we were pleased to see that our own thematic process ended up having similar title categories that Campaign Zero did.
yeah,
Now,
'cause I'm
the-
just looking, because this is very similar to Campaign Zero. With the regards to stop and frisk is the only thing not included in this.
We did not hear, and maybe there was a meeting where somebody had that specific thing. I did not find a statement that I could come across where that was stated, and I'm sorry if there was someone.
Anna Wilhelming mentioned at the last meeting.
From what was submitted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So they,
I
she's
missed-
right.
You're right.
So I have the document that I wrote where I got where
Yeah.
I was submitted, and it's right here. So.
I'm
that
sorry,
needs
I
to
thought
go.
that was included. I will get that corrected. So with that addition, and perhaps the additions of the groups, we tried, and obviously I failed, we tried to put everything under a category that we had gotten. There are, as of when this was finished, we have since received, I believe it is a list of recommendations from the DeKalb County Jewish Committee for Social Justice. And Bessie, I think that's what you were referring to, really. And then we also received, as of today, another list of recommendations from John Ray, our former mayor. And he had, back, I believe, on June 12th, sent a somewhat different list, which that list is in the document. So you can see we're gonna always be playing catch up. But the groups John, Ray, and the Jewish Committee for Social Justice would like those to be read, or, you know. I was hoping there might be a member here from that Jewish DeKalb County Jewish Committee for Social Justice. I was just a few minutes ago emailed, and apparently they don't have a representative come and read it. So I pledged I'd do my best. This was dated yesterday, and it says, "We, the members of Praying with Our Feet, support the goals presented by Black Lives Matter of DeKalb. It is tragic that it has taken this long for our country to take effective action. Countless lives have been traumatized and lost. As the spotlight of public awareness is sharply focused on these ongoing atrocities, we have an unprecedented opportunity and responsibility. Now is the time to act. As members of this community, we will personally work to see the specific and effective changes are swiftly put in place in order to protect Black, Indigenous, and people of color in our community. It is now time to move to the next step, public bodies making and implementing actionable changes. We will offer strong support to those proposing such steps. It is time for the City of DeKalb and DeKalb County to each work with BLM and community members to begin crafting policies consistent with the goals of BLM, and then begin working to ensure that the policies are actually implemented. We propose that the City Council meet with BLM and the police department to discuss and decide on specific and effective ways to implement the following: increasing transparency in the officer hiring process and assuring public disclosure of complaints. Second, creating a hiring policy that overtly strives to build a police force that represents the diversity in our community, that gives preference to applicants willing to live within the community, and that investigates past records and disqualifies any candidate who has been formally judged to have exerted excessive force. Next, adjusting the official DeKalb City Police Department procedures for use of force to include predetermined consequences for use of excessive force, including drafting zero-tolerance consequences for an injuring or potentially life-threatening violation. Another, creating an obstruction-free path for citizens to hold officers accountable who use excessive force or who do not intervene when excessive force is used. Requiring a police report whenever force is used or threatened.
Requirement of public report.
Oh, I'm sorry, requiring a public report, yes, thank you. Establishing clear criteria for traffic stops, frisks, detainment, and a system for monitoring and evaluating such stops. Utilizing an entity independent of the police in the review and prosecution of police officers. Creating a citizens review board that represents the diversity of the community and that has a significant role in overseeing the hiring process and in monitoring the use of force and citizen complaints. The second page, utilizing mental and social health workers as partners to police action, making a commitment to not cooperate with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, ICE, eliminating all police-owned military equipment, and then it goes into a different phrase and says, we propose that the City Council meet with the BLM and community members to discuss and decide on specific and effective ways to implement the following. First, working with a tenants association.
You skipped one, Larry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ensuring lease provisions with strong renter protection against unpredictable or unreasonable fees, penalties, and against failure to provide livable conditions. The second one, working with a tenants association to ensure that renters are aware of their rights. Then they go to another paragraph. We propose that the county board and officials of the 23rd Circuit Judicial System meet with BLM and interested community members to create and then implement strategies for the following. First, making a commitment to not cooperate with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. Secondly, ending cash bail for nonviolent crimes. Then another paragraph that says we propose that we all band together to advocate with the state, local, and federal government as appropriate for the following. First, adding whistleblower protection for police who report witnessing excessive force or racial targeting. Secondly, reforming qualified immunity and other obstacles to holding police officers accountable. Finally, we would like to offer our support and willingness to publicly advocate for these necessary changes. We will be researching other communities' implementation strategies and their effectiveness. We feel these issues must be faced immediately, and we would like to join with BLM activists, community members, and government officials to determine together how to build our community into a place where each resident can, can live safely and with dignity. Sincerely, praying with our feet, a DeKalb County Jewish Committee for Social Justice. And it's signed by Rabbi Julie Adler, Harvey Blue, Robert Feldecker, David Gorman, Jason Hanna, Jane Lux, Linda Morgan, Joshua Rodriguez, Lori Rodriguez, Herbert Rubin, Irene Rubin, Linda Schwartz, Carol Czar, and Jerry Czar. So we are going to obviously add this into the cumulative document.
I find it to be an excellent document, and I will make sure that this is in there.
Yeah, I think this is great too.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. honestly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
This is, if I can comment, I just think that it's great that citizens took it upon themselves as a group to get together, and they're willing to collaborate with another group to achieve the same aims. I just think that's outstanding.
Yes, yes. And as you'll see, if you were jotting down any of that group's recommendations, when you look at the fuller document, you'll see that some of their recommendations are already in there. What we've been doing is where we get essentially the same recommendation. We've added to that one we already have that there's now 3 or there's now 4, that type of thing. And their wording may be the best, so we'll, it's a work in progress. Finally, while we're just adding in the final comments that you wouldn't see in the document, the community's recommendation document, we did receive from former Mayor John Ray today some other recommendations that he has sent us after. He says he's really been doing a lot of studying and thinking about all this. And he says, this is intended to summarize my input to the commission as race relations reforms are considered for recommendation to the city council. I have previously expressed my suggestions in the Human Relations Commission Forum on June 16, 2020. Since that time, I have given further thought to the topic and wish to provide this additional input. The first bullet is support for the National Justice and Policing Act law enforcement reforms. Second bullet, support for the Black Lives Matter demands following June 18th town hall meeting. Third bullet, implement the community-led public safety model of law enforcement. It goes on further on that one to say support procedural justice through giving voice to the public. This model confers legitimacy to the police in a way that civilian oversight cannot. This ties to demand number 11 of recommendations from the BLM movement. Fourth bullet, work with local institutions to revise local support of housing, education, jobs, and healthcare services. Remove those systems / procedures that perpetuate individuals stuck in a multi-generational cycle of poverty. And finally, work with criminal justice system, courts, judges, prosecutors, to implement restorative justice model. Complementing traditional methods of justice, do not continue a strict retributive theory of punishment, i.e. when an offender breaks the law, requiring they suffer in return. He finishes up saying, we can do better. Intentionally removing systematic racism practices will benefit everyone living in this community. I support locally integrating support services and reducing bureaucracy in the law enforcement and criminal justice system, eliminating negative interactions of incarceration with poverty, homelessness, and mental health. Signed, John Rowe. Again, since we haven't reviewed this yet to try and place it, we'll be working on that too. I just found it kind of interesting that as John thought more about the situation in our community, he's got some more focus on the whole criminal justice reform and then the needs there. So I think he's kind of with the same thinking that I've had and others of the commissioners had, which is we've got to do some reforms with the criminal justice system, or everything we change here will be left empty on that end. Given those comments,
Larry, I have a question.
yeah.
So this Black Lives Matter piece,
Mhm.
That's mine, that's the introductory piece.
Oh,
I wrote-
okay,
I wrote
all right.
as in, which I'd like to get to in a minute when you're ready, yeah.
okay.
Sure.
So I guess I have another, this piece that Bessie just provided, I think this is worthy of sharing as well.
I agree.
Because it really talks about an alternative approach
Mhm.
that's currently in use. So I think
Right.
this would be,
Yeah.
good
This
to
is like
recommend.
the cahoots.
Yeah, this would be
model,
good
yeah.
to recommend to council
Bessie
review.
may not recall this, but it was either today or yesterday. I can't keep track of all the emails and phone calls. I had recommended that because I thought this was a good resource, a good community model, and even has a real nice twist to it of having medics going with the social worker, and just taking care of all kinds of things that, we're asking the police to do. I recommended to her that if she's coming to the next council meeting, that she fills out the I want to speak form and simply present this community's model. And I'll help her duplicate or whatever, so we can make sure the council and people present have this. Because it seems like one worth really looking into.
I'm asking tonight that we include it with the other materials that I imagine we're gonna recommend to the council. Bessie can
Oh,
come
that we-
down the
oh,
line
I'm
and do
sorry.
it as well. But my
Okay.
point tonight
They should get this.
is that,
Yeah.
exactly,
Oh, to
that
send
they
it out.
receive,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
I'm
with
sorry,
the
I
other.
misunderstood you.
Yeah,
Okay, sure. If there's no objections to that, we'll certainly forward it. We'll get it to the.
yeah, well, that's what all this other stuff that you read, right? We're forwarding all of this ultimately to the council.
Yes, by the council meeting, we would expect to take the written statements that were read and try to include them in the overall community's recommendation document. And if we would like to have a specific model brought to the attention of the council, we can send that tomorrow.
Well, let me be maybe clearer. I think that this is a model, but it's also information. And it also lends itself toward a recommendation with an example, right? If I want to say, you know, instead of cooking shrimp fried rice, we cook beef fried rice. Here, I've had some. Let me give you an example. This provides all of that. So in addition to the recommendations that we are submitting or moving forward with, I just think we should include this as well, even though we just received it. We didn't bring it, but a member of the community brought it, so I think it's just as valid and is substantive. Just my little, you know, review of it in this brief time.
Right.
So I hope that it will go forward with all of this other stuff that you've read.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I asked of the commission, so I understand at the end of this, from a staff perspective, I need to know what I need to have presented to the city manager. So we can have that as an attachment, but before we leave tonight, let's make sure we walk through what exactly you're having me send, okay?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. So
Sure.
Lisa, I get what you're saying here.
Sure.
You want that added. I will tell you this now, everything that has been submitted tonight will also be attached to the minutes for following too, so it will be memorialized on that as well.
Okay.
Not just instead of, but as well. So it'll
Okay.
be in two places. So that's fine. I'll make a note here that that's something you want added in without it, but just to let you know, it'll also be in the minutes.
Okay.
So there'll be two places that it'll be located.
Thank you.
I think it would probably be a good idea for the commission to accept the HRC's categorization of DeKalb community recommendations on improving police and community relationships document with the additions of the Jewish Committee on Social Justice and John Ray's latest new recommendations, and we can add other models or examples that have been discussed. I just think it's a good idea that we go on record as, hey, we as a group have done our best with this combined recommendation, and just to recognize that it's a document that, at least as of tonight, is what it is and is not static, you know.
Larry, are you going to include the Campaign Zero info, like with all this too?
We are, and that's another,
Document?
well, it's another document. The full document that I think many of us would like the council and the city staff to have a hard copy of is the 42-page one that they put out. Because it includes some research, and it also concludes models of places that have done some of these. And it helps cut the homework, because you've already got in front of you, oh, I don't understand this one. You can call that community, you know. So that's a 42-page document. My plan, and tell me guys if you want to try and do something different. My plan was to have this as hopefully a part of the city's council packet that goes out, mainly the website, because I'm not sure we can, you know, but then I was gonna go and print out at least 7 or 8 copies to hand out a hard copy at the council meeting. And I don't know, Bill, do you have?
Yeah, Larry, just to clarify, I think this is what Jason was getting at. Anything that has been presented here tonight will be presented as background before the council on the agenda for the 13th, which gets published Thursday afternoon, usually by 3 o'clock, so.
And Bill, I
What
know.
I have so far is what you read,
Yeah.
the compilation of what members of the commission have heard. I have the echelon, what was sent along by Herb today to you. I have John Ray's piece. And so far, that's all I have. I do have some recommendations that Chair Apperson passed along, but maybe there'll be some change in that from the commission itself tonight. I'm happy to send those along. In the interest of everybody having, they would be on the city's website with the agenda.
Good.
What about the 42-page document?
Well, I had gotten an impression a few days ago that we obviously, you were going to apparently reference the Campaign Zero document. And I didn't know that the city was expecting to send that 42-page document out with the council.
At your direction last Thursday, since it had been referenced in the HRC recommendations, which the commission hasn't gotten to yet tonight, and you thought that was sufficient at the time, so that's, I had no intent of writing the whole document.
Because it's such a large document, I was thinking that we would have hard copies also available for the council that night, so they don't have to ruin their printer in getting a color copy, because they will want color, because there are color coding that follows through it. So we'll get that done. Yeah.
I went through that document and took out all the pictures, and it's only 16 pages. So-
Oh. Well,
That's what I tried to do. when I sent
well,
it.
I know you did, but it didn't have the research citation.
No, I didn't have the,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't.
We'll work on it.
That sounds good.
I want it to be useful for
16
council.
pages?
A quick suggestion.
Yeah.
If you're gonna present us with 42 pages, give it to us before the night.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why the city, in their packet that I think you guys get, can give you the exact website,
Okay.
and then you can rely that I'm gonna bring 8 or 10 copies of the whole thing.
Mr. Chairman?
There,
Yes.
just so people understand, so there's a lot of information that's provided for every council meeting, and people can peruse what they'd like. And each item on the agenda then has a reference point. In this case, there would be maybe more background than there might be for some other items, an IDOT permit or something. And all of that will be on there. And if you have as Gordon was saying, if you have a shorter version of this, great. If you can get that to us, maybe by the end of the day tomorrow, at the latest on Thursday morning, we can get it in the packet. And then we list it by title, so that people looking for something can see it under that topic.
Good.
Yeah.
I think that's
And we don't make hard copies for the council of all the background.
See, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so there's not a printing issue.
Yeah, is there a question?
Sorry, I don't think it's too much to ask to include the whole 42 pages. We're talking about something that's important. You should not get the Cliff Notes version of it. The council should be provided the full document. With pictures, color, not color, they should get the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they should take the time to read it, not peruse what they feel is necessary.
Color code it yourself.
It impacts people's lives, it's not an IDOT report, it's people's lives. It's not an IDOT report, it's not a building permit, it's impacting people's lives. 42 pages, that's worth it, I'm sorry. Yeah,
And-
if people choose not to read it, that's on them, but that information should be there.
I'm sorry.
The document I'm talking about has all the words, it just doesn't have the pictures. And you can go online and see the whole document, with pictures, but
Well,
the
I
substance
just, I
of
don't
it.
think you should shorten it to make it easier.
Yeah, I don't understand what
Yeah.
the issue is. Why
I don't
can't
get
you
that.
have, like, it's 2020, why can't you have, like, a physical copy, read through it, color code it? I mean, it's like high school reading and everything, taking notes. And I'm sure everybody either has, like, some sort of smart device, whatever, computer, have it right there. the physical and the online copy. Like, it's really not that difficult.
Okay, if I can just, I think what Bill just said is that they are provided with all of this information and they're given, you know, like addresses, so they can go and look it up and see the whole thing. I don't get the impression that they're gonna miss out on anything, and I understand how you got that, because Norton said, well, I did it was fewer pages, and Larry was offering to do it, but Bill, I thought, jumped in and said, hey, they're gonna have the whole thing, they're just gonna have to access it.
That's fine,
No, I think it's a good point.
I can cut it down to a few things.
Yeah, no, I thought
Intention
maybe people
is-
missed,
yeah.
you might have missed that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I also think just to make it a little bit more user-friendly, just give them the document instead of asking them to go to a website and look at it their own time. When it's there, there's no, I didn't click the link, I missed it, it's right there for them. So I think it just reduces the user error in not seeing it.
I guess my offer to give a hard copy to people is because I've had, like all of you have had, any colored document that's of any number of pages length. You're in the middle of it, back off to buy more ink cartridges and stuff. I thought it was just an easy courtesy for, if you've ever read through a council packet, one of the ones that has a huge agenda, it is a lot of material to go
Why do we
through.
need
But
to
that's
give
the
courtesy?
choice.
I'm sorry.
Why do we need to give courtesy with an issue like this to the council?
Nope.
I don't understand.
Because you want the people that are representing this community and vote on changes to have as much information as easily accessible to them as possible. Because it's in the community's favor. We'll figure out what we're doing. Yeah, Dave.
I just want to add, and I think this might be a good time for this discussion right now, which I think is important. One of the things that, and I see this from both sides, the HRC needs to be more than simply a collator of information.
Right.
We need to make our values as community members and as community members who listen to other community members known. And I wanted to submit into the record and perhaps read if it's okay. I wrote, as we were sort of dividing up duties and so forth, thinking about our presentation to the council, I offered to do an introductory statement. And, yes.
Dave, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Next we're gonna consider our own recommendations, and then we were gonna discuss how do we wanna organize the presentation.
That's fine, all I'm suggesting is, and I've read through our own recommendations, and they're quite good, and I have to say, Larry Apperson has done a tremendous amount of work pulling a lot of stuff together. And I'm very grateful to him for all the work that he has done to do this, and under some pretty tough circumstances, but he has taken a lot on to himself. It's very hard with the Open Meetings Act you can't get together as a group and get the work done, because then you have a closed meeting. And it's very hard. And I think the council members say the same thing. It's like you come together and then suddenly you have to coordinate. And you haven't had a chance to coordinate as a group because you can't. It's illegal. And there's some good reasons for that, but it also makes for an organizational nightmare when you're trying to pull something off, like gather everything together and submit it. Larry has been a workhorse in making this happen. But as I said, and the reason I think this is important maybe to do right now is because what we're about to do is go through some more listing, which is vital to this. We have collected information from the community. We have tried to be comprehensive. We have tried to get it out there without leaving out the voices that we've heard. However, it can sound a bit like we are just collators. And I'm submitting this. This is not something the commission has read, and I'm submitting it for rehashing, for rethinking, discussion tonight, because this is our opportunity to discuss these things, these values. And I just was asking permission to read that in now, because I think it would not hurt for the voices that have spoken to us with passion to know that we aren't going to simply sort of suck that passion out and pass it on. And I don't mean that as a knock on anybody, because what are you gonna do? You're gonna try to represent what you've brought in. But you can't do that always with the same sort of rhetorical power and passion that you've got. So I took a stab at it.
Yeah.
As I said, this is subject to change, yes.
Do you have a copy I could have for me to?
Yes,
put into the
yes, I
minutes?
have a copy right here.
Okay,
The only reason is because it's going into the July 13th council meeting and aspects of our presentation.
Yes.
I think we would benefit for first knowing what is it that the group feels should be a part of our recommendations. Because if it is X, Y, and Z, the intro would want to highlight that. If it's just Y and X, it would be perhaps slightly written differently. That's why I think we benefit from first going through a draft of our own recommendations to the
Well,
council.
I'll defer to you. I
Yeah.
think one of the things that I'm thinking about is that, I'm kind of thinking about the rhythm of the meeting, I guess, in a way.
Mhm.
That's, you know, I'm not so much thinking about, you know, that this won't get changed, or it can't be changed. I certainly think it can be changed. My point is, in terms of the rhythm of the meeting, we've had a lot of listing so far, a lot of listing going on.
Mhm.
And I think,
And the list, another 15 items right now is not necessary.
well, it may be necessary, and it may be necessary to change this in some way after we talk about it. I don't have a problem with that. But what I'm suggesting is that I think we ought to discuss, in a sense, our, that role we play above and beyond simply being collators of information. And do we have that role? I think we do.
I hope you do.
I think people expect that of us. And so I'm saying we've shown a lot of the other, we've shown almost none of this. And our discussion over the last few meetings has been limited. We've sat diligently and dutifully through very long public comment. Very passionate, very informative, very important public comment. As far as, I remember at our last meeting, we kind of had to sort of take it all in, and I think we were all trying to, you know, sort of get our sea legs with the Zoom meeting and so forth. And there was not a lot of opportunity to get behind that, as I recall. I mean, am I right? I recall that.
No, I was very frustrated that.
It was a
because
kind of
we
a
said,
frustrating-
That was a long
yeah.
meeting, and we sure heard a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
let's go home.
And I think the
I-
impression that people have of us is important. This is a forensic setting. If, we might as well just out with it, right? It's a forensic setting. We're a group of people who are hired to be somewhat independent of the city.
Not hired.
No, not hired, thank you, appointed, not hired, work for nothing. But we're appointed to be advising the city and to be independent in that respect. And I just think it's important that people recognize us as that. As I said, we are a commission, and we'll vote on whatever goes to the council. But I think it's important that we show some of those cards at some point, in terms of our value. I mean, we've got, I know, the people out here, I've known some of them for quite a while. And I know they have, an interest in a sense, trotting those values out as we move forward with this. But I'm all for the meeting working in an order that will work, but that was just my impression. I guess I'm reading not only this room, but the larger room, and what
I would prefer if you did, actually. I would prefer that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear.
I'd like to hear what you have.
My
I've got
thing
it,
is,
I've read it.
But what do they want to hear? Do they want to hear us read to them anymore, or, you know?
Well, I think this is a different time, I hope, we'll strike a different note. And what I tried to say here too was we're listening. And we're listening hard. And I think that's important.
Can you just read it?
Oh, okay, do you mind, is it okay if I go?
Yeah.
I'll read what I have, and again, subject to the
Does the
committee.
council want to delay the discussion of our own recommendations and have the.
Is this a change in the agenda that I'm putting, okay.
Yeah, because our next agenda item is the HRC recommendations, not how we're gonna organize our presentation for the July 13th council meeting. And we're going to get to that.
Yeah, and I guess I thought this spoke to
I
that
understand
section
what you mean.
of the.
And there's no question that we're, sooner or later, tonight, we're going to make sure you
Okay,
present
okay,
it.
all right.
But it's
Then I
it's
won't-
up
I won't force you to
it's up
change the
the
agenda.
commission members.
But it will get read. It will get
Well,
read.
I'd like to say that
I don't
if
care as long as
if
it's-
what we're doing right now, if we're under one, I guess and we just reviewed the community recommendations and what Dave wants to do is add something based on the last time we met and the recommendations that we just submitted, then it seems appropriate that he do this now.
I was just pointing out that the next thing on the agenda is a discussion of our own decisions on recommendations.
Right, I follow you there.
And then we.
Someone can move to
Can I suggest this?
And we have a motion.
What, I would like to,
Thank you.
I'd make a motion that we change the agenda and allow David to do it.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Glenn, go ahead,
okay,
Dave.
thank you. So I'll read, this is a proposed,
Yeah.
that's fine.
But remember, we need to give everybody for sure a context. This is but a draft.
Yes, that's what I said,
of
subject to
what-
change.
What would first be presented to council when this agenda item comes up.
Right, exactly.
One quick thing on a technicality. What exactly was the motion? It was just motion to change. That doesn't tell me what
Change
minutes
the
say.
order of business from not moving directly to the HRC recommendations, but to the discussion of the presentation to the city council on July 13th.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify the motion for the minutes, so.
Black Lives Matter. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Thank you also to the thousands of DeKalb citizens who've made their voices heard over the past weeks and months, and whose activism and calls for change inform this report. My charge in this introduction is to frame rather than elaborate the substantive content of the report on solutions for improving police-community relations that will follow. In trying to understand the scope of our work, I and the other commissioners have listened to residents and consulted a broad but by no means exhaustive list of relevant resources. Like everyone else, we have heard the calls for justice in what is only the most recent wake of the abuse of force, all too often deadly force, by police in their interactions with people of color. Prior to the killing of George Floyd, the people of DeKalb witnessed the use of excessive force against Alante McDowell, an incident that brought pain to the black citizens in our community and laid bare the fear and anger they often experience in their interactions with police. As we ask the council members and the citizens of DeKalb to rethink the role of policing in our community, we are aware that we are also asking them to reimagine what is possible. The idea that force, police force, potentially deadly force, is an appropriate response to nearly every sort of social ill is deeply embedded in our national consciousness. We casually request armed people with the power of life and death, to call on our neighbors when the music is too loud or there's an argument or we see behavior that we deem suspicious. True, we also call on them when violence is an imminent threat, but such situations represent only a small percentage of the incidents to which we ask our police force to respond. For too long, we have failed to imagine something different. For too long, we have invested in and reached for the proverbial hammer that encourages us to see every problem as a nail. It can be different. Black Lives Matter, the Poor People's Campaign, Campaign Zero, and other platforms have provided roadmaps for change, but these maps cannot be read without a moral compass. Following them requires that we reject the expedient, the economically efficient, and the culturally comfortable solution. They require a deep dive beneath our assumptions and biases regarding poverty, race, equality of opportunity, and what we categorize as crime. I draw your attention to the stated goals of one of the more visionary organizations I encountered in my research, 8 to Abolition, which sees itself in opposition to other groups that seek merely to reform but not transform the nature of policing as it currently exists in our country. And this is their vision: to build an abolitionist world that prioritizes the lives of black people. We have drawn upon decades of abolitionist work to compile the list of demands targeted towards city and municipal powers. Honoring the long history of abolitionist struggle, we join in their efforts to divest from the prison industrial complex, invest in our communities, and create the conditions for our ultimate vision, a world without police, where no one is held in a cage and all people thrive and be well. The word abolition is well chosen. We are no doubt meant to register the historical significance of that word and to recognize the unfinished work of those who saw beyond the limitations of their culture and took a stand against the enslavement of other human beings. Those abolitionists were more often seen as radicals and cranks in their day than as visionaries. They were a thorn in the side of those who sought to maintain the status quo, which included slaveholders and non-slaveholders alike. Abolitionists sought to disrupt political and economic power with a moral vision. I intentionally chose to open with this controversial vision because I want to compare it to a reality that faces us every day, and which, if our collective complacency is any measure, we do not find controversial at all. In this reality, the United States, which accounts for only 5% of the world's population, accounts for 21% of the world's incarcerated population. That's the highest incarceration rate in the world. Of that incarcerated population, 37.5% are black, although blacks represent only 13.4% of the population. Black men have a 1 in 1,000 chance of being killed by the police, while white men have a 39 in 100,000 chance of being killed by the police, which is to say that black men are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than white men. While mass incarceration and the criminal justice system have not received as much attention as policing policies, HRC recognizes the need for rapid reform in these areas, which, along with current policing policies, constitute a vicious cycle of repression for people of color, destroying families, perpetuating unemployment, and drawing resources away from meaningful social services. The cash bail system clearly penalizes poverty, and the policy of mandatory sentencing has left countless broken lives in its wake. What claim can we have to being the land of the free when this is our reality? Where should we should rightly ask, is a moral vision that informs this reality? Who are we if we accept this reality, which so clearly indicates that black lives do not matter? As a community, we cannot cure the ills of an entire nation. But across the nation, communities like ours are finding ways to rise to this historic moment and begin the process of change from the ground up. While it was the image of a single man having his life crushed out that repulsed us and spurred us to collective action, we do not also see in that image the fruits of a failed and unsustainable system, we have missed the point. The Human Relations Commission offers its recommendations in the hope that the leaders of the city of DeKalb will seize this moment and play their part in creating a more just community in which all its citizens feel equally supported, equally safe, and equally valued. Thank you.
Thank you, David. David's put in a lot of work on this. And I appreciate the effort. I think it speaks a lot about what we as members feel, and it does capture, I think, the emotions that are behind what we're all experiencing. Given that, and we know we can come back to it, we ought to try to get through the draft of what our own HRC recommendations would be. And this is but that, a draft. I think its rationale was to have as an overall emphasized recommendation that the city needs to review all the recommendations. That it needs to do a fair and thorough, researched and analyzed possibility to implement. Anything short of that is not acceptable. And yes, many of us that have our own jobs or have been employed in organizations, that is a big statement to make, because that is extraordinary amount of time to do the thorough investigation. But this particular recommendation document, which I know you've all seen, it states off that we feel all of them should be reviewed. And it also strongly recommends that the city increase its commitment to the community policing model and the full implementation of its components. We've got to go from the warrior to the guardian kind of culture. Third one is the HRC also recommends that those community recommendations that have already been completed or are in process by the city should be immediately communicated to the CALB community via all media avenues. And there are, quite frankly, as some of you probably know, but I'm afraid many don't know, that the city was at work before even protests began locally to start to try and make changes. And the council, I think I understand correctly, Bill, will see a written summary of those. And I don't know if I've got that correct, but.
That's correct. In addition, there will be some recommendations for council action, but there is a summary of a number of things that have taken place summarily and at the staff level, some of which I'm asking the council to put their hand on, although it's not required by ordinance, and in form of resolution, so the intent of the council is behind it, and also some ordinances. That'll be on Monday night, the 13th. That agenda comes out on Thursday afternoon, which will be the same agenda that the HRC recommendations will be in. I can tell you right now, the background is about 10 pages, single space, so there's a lot of meat to it. And I invite, it's not intended to be the last word or even the middle word, but it's the beginning, and I think it addresses a lot of the things that I'm reading in the various lists that are before the commission tonight. I think you'll have thoughts and comments, and we welcome them.
I was pleased to see that the city has already started to do some of the recommendations, so that.
Excuse me, may I highlight some of those?
Sure.
For the people that are here in the audience.
Absolutely.
I want to give people a sense that they have been heard. And so I want to highlight some of these changes that are going to come into effect. One would be, of course, to ban the use of chokeholds or anything that would impair breathing or restrict blood flow to the brain. It obligates officers it has policies for punishing people for excessive force, but also for not intervening. If an officer happens to see that happening, it doesn't intervene to stop it. It talks about cultural bias and racial sensitivity training. It talks about posting disciplinary records.
I'm sorry, Joe,
No.
are you reading from something that only you have right now?
No, I'm reading from something that we got as an attachment to our meetings.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, there were lots of emails.
There was a
so
lot.
it'll be something that-
I may have two of them, but anyway, no, this is,
I just wanted to follow, that's all.
no, okay, sure.
but so this isn't part of our basic recommendation?
No, these are steps that the city is undertaking. These are the elimination of no-knock warrants, except in case of, if there's an imminent danger of loss of life, embedding a social work perspective in policing, reorganizing the police department so that we have two divisions that talk about public safety and also the prevention of crime. It talks about, it talks about a leasing policy that would specifically go after 100 properties and others that are employing a rope-a-dope sort of strategy by ignoring the implementation of city codes and so forth. I just want people to know that there are these things in the works already at the city level that some steps have been taken.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we had in the draft to review then, again, a recommendation that the Campaign Zero document be used as a resource that we think would be helpful for everyone. Then there was a recommendation that those recommendations that require changes to state of Illinois statutes be identified and lobbying begin with the appropriate state of Illinois representatives, Illinois police associations, etc., and a staff member will be appointed to be the lead in this effort. The HRC recommends that the city provide updates to the community through all media types to inform them about progress on the review and investigation and decisions of changes based upon the recommendations. The HRC also recommends that the city updates be presented to the HRC at its regularly scheduled meetings. Furthermore, the HRC recommends that the city use resources in the community to assist with the task of reviewing and deciding upon recommendations. And we certainly offer ourselves as a group that will help do research or whatever. Then the HRC recommends that if the city determines that the review of these recommendations or review of some of the groupings of recommendations would best be conducted by establishing a smaller task coordinating group, then besides the task group members, obviously being selected from city staff, police department, maybe a city council rep, that these kinds of smaller task groups need to include two community representatives. We also recommend that whether a recommendation is assigned to a staff member, small group, or other entity, that such individuals or groups need to follow the following kinds of process in evaluating the recommendation. First, they need to research the recommendation using recognized organizations and/or knowledgeable individuals or professionals. Secondly, to discover other municipalities that have implemented the recommendations, and if at all possible, visit the municipalities to make sure we know what was done. Share the information with all stakeholders. Decide only after the above steps are completed whether the recommendation under study can be implemented as stated, or with some modification, or record why the recommendation is not possible. The HRC recommends that the city adopt a normative attitude to avoid the outright discarding or discounting of any recommendation because it at first seems impossible.
Larry, remind me what normative attitude means.
It's a way of a norm of how your group is going to proceed, so it's a normative attitude in this case that there will not be this taking a recommendation from this community and just ignoring it.
Okay.
There needs to be the normative agreed upon process that no, we're not going to even deal with that. It's not sufficient.
I have a number of comments throughout the whole thing. Many of them are just typographical, but as long as Dave has raised this one, I would suggest we change the language there, because I didn't know what normative meant either. It doesn't have much meaning.
Okay, we'll change that. And along with that, we had another one similar, but more specific. The HR also strongly recommends that the police department not immediately reject the consideration of any recommendation. And in light of the task at hand, we had a recommendation for the whole community. We've got to allow the city, police department, and council the time needed to review and enact recommendations. Everything obviously can't be instantaneous, but on the other hand, when you think about the recommendations already read, there's an expectation that there be a legitimate and honest review. And finally, it's recommended that an action plan be developed to prioritize the recommendations with timelines and staff or group assigned to coordinate and report the review of recommendations. That's this first draft. Now,
Effective is, well, again, this is more for the benefit of the people in the room that aren't on the commission, but I do think we're talking about at least two stages here. We're talking about study, we're talking about committees, we're talking about looking at recommendations and how they can be implemented and so forth and so on. And I don't want, and some of those things are going to take time. On the other hand, there are things that we can do tomorrow. I mean, there are things that we can do right away. And I want to make clear that some of these are not going to take forever. To redesign or rethink what policing means in this community and so forth, that needs input, that needs discussion, means looking at other models in other places. To try to ban the use of no-knock warrants, that's a no-brainer. That's like, why can't we do that now? To replace officers with social workers as first responders for nonviolent, mental health, drug, and public nuisance cases, that shouldn't take us 6 months to research. To ensure cultural competency training for city staff and ongoing training for city staff and police fire personnel on implicit bias, anti-racism work, and so forth and so on. That we can undertake. We don't need 6 months to say, well, I don't know, you think it's a good idea? To prohibit military-grade equipment, grenade launchers, pepper spray, rubber bullets, no, that's now. So I want to reassure people, if we can, that some of these things are going to be structural and they're going to take time and so forth and so on. Some things are common sense, and I would hope that the city council could take action on them real quick.
Can I make a suggestion on following on what Joe just said? Number 14, that you have a recommendation there added to that recommendation that that the prioritized recommendations and timelines be made public. I mean, that seems to me to be a way to deal with what you're talking about, is that the city needs to say, we're going to do these things, and here's the timeline that we have set for these things.
Larry, you have something?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Also, in addition to that, can you guys add a recommended timeline when you make the recommendation? Just like you said, some things should be now, some things, I think that would help them, kind of give them some structure of what we're looking for. And
Because there are certain things, like I've been saying since the town hall meeting, like you said, we can ban like tear gas, all of that stuff, like militarized weapons. There are a lot of things that we can ban, like, let's do it right now.
It is in, those things are in here.
But do you specifically
Say
say
these are now, these
Yeah.
are later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah,
do we?
publicizing
Well,
it is so important, publicizing it is so important.
Sorry.
We don't say it now. We don't, it's not saying now.
Okay, well then I would recommend that we say no.
Okay. Well, what I'm trying to say is let's be honest, let's be upfront, because that was a direct question.
Okay.
And so.
That was my
and
misunderstanding then.
Well, and the truth of the matter is, even though Joe said all of those things, we don't determine
Yeah.
what they do.
Right, right.
Right, what we do is say, this is what we think, this is what we talked
But at
about,
least they're being put
and
on
we
notice
are.
that-
Well, I agree, I think we should do that, but I just want everybody to be
Right,
real
right,
clear.
right.
Yeah.
Us saying it, and them saying, oh, okay, let's do it, I mean, that doesn't take into consideration whatever parameters they work under. And I'm good, though, I'm good with saying, we don't wanna wait forever, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that, just for all practical purposes. But I also don't wanna give an impression
Okay.
that because we said it, that therefore it's happening and it's done.
Oh,
So-
no, I stand corrected on that, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Well, one of our recommendations includes the 5 things that Joe just listed, but the first one, replace officers with social workers, that means hiring people, that means
Right.
changing
Interviewing
budgets,
people,
so
yeah.
that's not gonna happen tomorrow or next
That's
Monday.
one of the things he said.
They can commit to do that right away, but it's
Yeah,
not going
that's-
to be in place.
I would think that if we said, I mean, first of all, we don't control what recommendations they ultimately accept.
No,
Sure.
So I would say that those recommendations that are accepted, we highly recommend that you make that known publicly, what recommendations you've accepted, and that you attach a timeline to those recommendations. I mean, that's about as much as, you know, we can do, and if, you know, I don't know why you wouldn't, you know, attach a timeline to a recommendation that you were taking seriously and wanted to see implemented. So-
well, there are two things, there are two, there are decisions that the city council has to
Right.
make. There are also policy changes that are at the discretion of the city manager and are at the, and the head of the police department. When we're talking about, requiring people to respond, requiring officers to intervene if excessive force is being used, that's not a city council decision, that's a change in policy. And that can happen. That can happen like now. Some of these things, as I read in the recommendations that the city is making, that Bill Nicholas has given, these aren't necessarily
budgetary.
changes that have to, these are policy changes that are not, city council doesn't have, they may quibble about them, but it's not like they have to be approved to go into effect.
Just for the record, to show that things can happen quickly. My understanding here from the document the council gets, the DeKalb Police Department has contracted with the Ben Gordon Center for the services of a social worker who will ride with officers and maintain an office at the DeKalb Police Department. There's been further thing about the funding, but the point being that the inertia that many encounter with a city municipality has started to move. And I think it's moving in the right direction. Bessie?
Yeah, this is good, the flow of information here is really good, I'm enjoying this very much. But somebody had mentioned about getting information out and publicizing it. Now, I'm an old lady, and I have all I can do to look at a smartphone, which is significantly smarter than me. It's a constant battle. Not everybody is techie oriented, right, Scott? We talked this about. Not everybody relies on the website. Oh, look at the website, look at the website. Well, not everybody goes to a website. We have 2 members of the media right here. One of the maybe proposals or suggestions would be for the media to dedicate a portion of their media time and media pages to this updated information, however information, the information that you want your public to know about. This is a perfect opportunity for the predominantly white institutions to show the sensitivity that the community is begging for. They can do it. They're both very good. it's doable. So I just a little itty bitty suggestion in this, ways of, you know, like,
Yeah, we haven't.
maybe more people will subscribe to the Chronicle, more people
Okay.
will listen to WLBK and so on.
Bessie, you're absolutely, it doesn't matter if you change the policy if you don't tell anybody.
Well,
I mean,
that's
I-
true.
I
But, you know,
agree wholeheartedly.
I'm thinking of my little 88-year-old friend who reads the paper and relies on the TV to get her news about the council. She doesn't do computers. She could care less about computers. She knows about the community. And they vote, and they're engaged in the community, and they're a part of the community. You gotta engage all of those people too, because not everybody is kept.
The gentleman in the back, we haven't heard from.
Yeah, my name is Maurice McDavid, and I just wanted to say, second this idea that the communication piece will be incredibly key. And what I want you all to know is that somebody who's been here 32 years, who's worked in the school district, and we went through the diversity plan that we started when I was a senior in high school in 2006, and we didn't get it actually voted through until 2017. By that time, I'm an administrator in the district, just to give you a little perspective. I want you to know that there will be people in the community who will scoff at everything being said until we see it or hear it. Because this story has been told time and time again. We've sat in meetings, we've marched, we've done and so until it happens, I just want you to know that there will be scoffers, there will be doubters, there will be naysayers, there will be people who still get upset and think you're not moving fast enough. I appreciate the idea that government moves slow, right, just in general, but again, it has to be done, and it has to be done expeditiously.
Thank you. Yes?
I just want to say, you know, the culture is set from the top. And so if there's announcements going out, this is what we're prioritizing as a committee, as a council, and the community is hearing that, they're gonna say, oh, okay, this has some weight behind it. It's not just people standing on a corner waving signs, you know? That Facebook announcement, that was everywhere in a day. Everyone I talked to that day knew about it. So you can get stuff out there that people know about, hear about, and talk about. And so I think that publicizing this, every little increment, publicizing it, saying, we're behind this. So we're not having people coming up saying, oh, these demands are crazy and no one wants this in our community. If they're seeing that these are being implemented step by step by step, there's timelines, that changes the culture, then more people are behind it. Then we're not having to come here and yell so loud to get you to do the stuff, you know. So I think that publication is key, and we know that it can be done because, you know, stuff gets around in a day if there's weight put behind it. Thank you.
Bill?
Just very briefly, and Marie said this at the Thursday night gathering, the rally at Hawkins Park. I remember that very well. And I remember very well saying something to the effect, let's proceed civilly and so forth. And I was told very clearly, reasonably so, it's time for action. I might have heard that 20 times that night, and I didn't need to hear it more than a couple. It was clear. Went up to Vivian afterward and said, I agree, let's watch and see. So I met with Bob Riddell, who was busy the next night. It was Juneteenth, and I was busy just making sure that everything was peaceful and so forth. That weekend, with the command staff, talked with anybody who wanted to talk about some things that could be done right away. Now, I wanted to report on this at the last meeting.
Bill, I'm sorry.
Yeah, can you
I'm
hear
only
me?
interrupting you. I can hear you, but Norton asked earlier
Yes,
if we
thank
could
you.
all keep our masks up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When we
I'm
speak.
sorry.
But that's when we actually need them up.
Yeah.
And everybody else was scared to say something to you, Bill, but I'm the brave woman in the
I'm
room.
a soft speaker, and this only makes it better.
We got you though, we got you.
Okay. So, but I didn't have an agenda piece last time, and the commission was mostly listening to what they were seeing and hearing on the Zoom. So, so the first time I had to share anything was last Thursday with Larry, and I said, this is a draft, it's a working draft, and it's essentially the same, but there's probably another 3 or 4 pages of detail, because the more I thought about it, people in the community not only want to know, what's the city doing, but what's the rationale, what's the timeline? Is it tomorrow? Joe was absolutely right. So I put some more meat to it, and maybe it's not enough, I'm sure it's not perfect. But what you'll see that will come out on Thursday, and I'm not going to belabor this tonight, I could run through it by memory, because I've lived this for the last 2 weeks. And I've tried to address those things that are within the city manager's authority, and what aren't within my authority, to bring them forward to the council on the same evening. So Joe was very kind to read some of the highlights. But I can tell you, just to give you an example, not only is chokehold forbidden, now that was forbidden last September.
We can hear you.
Sorry. Sorry, my fault. But what wasn't forbidden in the police SOPs was what, Jason can help me with the phrase, but it's lateral vascular. So, we all know what a chokehold is, but a fairly strong person can just lay that strong arm against an old man's neck like mine, or a young person's neck, and constrict the blood flow to the brain just as effectively. They know how to do it. That's also forbidden and subject to the same extreme discipline. The part about the affirmative duty, not recommendation, of an officer who's observing excessive force to act was not in our standard operating procedures. And we put them in, they're online right now, you can see them. Okay? That goes to officer accountability. That's not all. We have to have body cameras, so everybody knows what's going on all the time. It's a lifelong tape, basically. Although, I can tell you practically what happens. If you're sitting in a squad car doing traffic, and you get an hour and a half and there isn't anything happening, you know, nobody, you're not getting out, you're not talking to somebody much, so that gets wiped away. Otherwise, it's Big Brother sitting there in a car watching people, right? So that usually in this new software is the protocol. That's probably what we'll observe unless we hear that that's unacceptable. But generally speaking, we will hold that. For how long are we required by law?
At least 30 days.
Well, but more generally, if there is an arrest and so forth, that is forever, I guess.
It depends on the offense, but it's
Okay.
always longer than what.
So we don't have that, and how are we gonna get the money for that? We're selling City Hall. We're gonna get at least $400,000 for that. $150,000 of that goes into the body cams. It's the only way we have the money to do this. Otherwise, I'd be embarrassed to be sitting here, standing here a year from now to say, I don't have the money, because COVID cost me $4.5 million. That's silly. You wanna put up to it? I will not put up. So we're gonna do that. If for some reason that doesn't happen, I'll go to the council and ask that they take it out of the general fund reserve, and I'm looking to council members, I think they would do that. And so on and so forth. So please do look at it. The reorganization of this police department is no small thing. But one way it's gonna happen is through our budget, because the budget is really the guide to our services, because without the money behind it, the services don't happen. The budget process, happily, is beginning in August. And between now and then, I have to get with my department heads, come up with some general goals that will then be discussed by the Finance Advisory Committee and the council. And one of them is going to be that reorganization. So, how we do that, how well we do it, how thorough we do it, is going to be entirely in the public realm. You're all invited to show up at those meetings, and I assure you it will be interesting and worth the discussion. There's another dozen, and I'm gonna stop. I didn't mean to take this much time, I wasn't gonna say anything tonight, but I don't want people either to leave and think, well, nothing's been done, I don't know what's gonna happen, there's no action, another week has gone by. I think one thing it will do is the action will provoke more action, whether supportive or not. And now we got something going, we get some movement. That's what you look, I think is overlooked.
And people outside of this might need to know too.
Yeah, yeah, so that is, first of all, it's published on the web, so the whole world actually, if they're interested, can see it. It'll be, I imagine Scott and Kelsey will report on it in some depth on Tuesday morning next week, and we can't keep that going, we have to discuss it. That was the whole idea. We have a committee of the whole, it's an hour packed just on this, it's not lost in an agenda. So people can show up or look at it, it's televised on Monday night, live, so it'll all be there in front of everybody.
Okay, may I ask Bill a question while you're?
Yes, sure.
What is the status of the police union contract? Is there one in existence?
There is one in existence, a 3-year contract. It was approved, interestingly, negotiations started last fall. It went through the holiday and into the first part of the year. It was approved by the council the first part of February.
So it's new, the 3-year just started?
It is. And among those things are, and we don't have to change the contract because the state Supreme Court has weighed in about expungement. So that is no longer something that will occur of discipline. And the other thing that I am proposing and Chief Riddell is proposing is the publishing discipline. So right now you can FOIA the DeKalb Police Department and get up to 4 years of all when I say discipline, I'm talking about what's been determined. And the answer would be no discipline or the discipline is. Those decisions are in the public domain. My view is, why make people wait, what's it gonna be, 30 days, 2 weeks, file a FOIA, publish it, and then record it. We're all pretty clever with Excel. We can make nice graphs and publish them every month and keep it updated. I've insisted on that. Chief Riddell has embraced it. Jason and the command staff have embraced it. That's never been done in this town. And I don't think there's anybody in the county that does it. I don't know if there's anybody between here and Lake Michigan that does it. Chicago is under federal order and they're still not doing it consistently. So I'm happy and proud about that. That does expose us all. I'm exposed every day. I'll be exposed in the news tomorrow. Where police officers, are trying to do their job without fanfare and so forth in many cases, but we want everybody to be held to account. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Is, in the interest of time and everything, is there any member that has an additional recommendation that they'd like to have considered? Or is there one they are really desirous of rewriting some way? Now, I know there's maybe typos or grammatical whatevers, and we'll, obviously get that done, because some of you are certainly trained in English, and I am not. Norton, you sound like you...
I have some of those, but it seems to me we need to look at paragraph 3, or the recommendation 3. In light of the discussion we've just had on what's happening, what's already happening, and then I would like to add a couple. We have 5 things listed that Joe read. Based on the Jewish Committee recommendations, I'd like to at least see that we say something about the hiring process and accountability for misconduct, which may have already been addressed, but I still think we should have something in here that talks about at least those 2 things. I had recommended to Larry that we incorporate the Jewish Committee's recommendations more into this, but that's not really practical, and they're gonna get a copy of, it's gonna go up, a copy of it didn't go up anyway, but at least, I'm just not sure the wording of 3 is consistent with what we've talked about, and again, I'd like to see the hiring process and the accountability for misconduct, something in there that covers those 2 as well.
Do you want to make a motion that we incorporate those 2 things?
Well, sure, I'll make, well, but
If you do, I'll second it.
I'm still concerned about rewriting.
Yeah.
The agency also recommends that those community recommendations that have already been completed or are in process should be immediately communicated to the community. I was gonna say, some of these things aren't yet in process, but now that you've mentioned the contract with Ben Gordon, maybe everything is already in process. I don't know, and based on what the city manager just said, maybe the accountability for officers' misconduct is already in process. So the only thing we haven't talked about is the hiring process.
So, in that regard, you're saying that under number 3, there needs to be at least an F that has a statement about, it's involving the hiring process and the accountability for misconduct.
Well, those are 2 different things.
I realize that, so that's an F and a G, but we would simply, and I think I heard you say that the wording of those 2 was worded in the Jewish committees on social justice?
They're there. Actually, I did write out something, so I guess I could make a motion that we add F and G, which would be F, provide transparency and rigor in the officer hiring process. I struggle with the word rigor. I just want to convey that there needs to be depth in the background check.
I would say just make it plain then, transparency and thorough background check.
Okay. Provide
If
transparency.
that's what you meant by rigor, then that's what I would say.
Repeat that phrase then again? Provide transparency.
Provide transparency and
transparent
thorough
and-
background checks for.
Provide transparent and. Yeah, you just said it. Provide transparent and.
Transparent and thorough background
And
checks. So
thorough
in other words, we
background
should be able to see that those background checks
Right.
are public.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, got that? And then G would be, assure, I've got what I've written down, assure accountability for officers' misconduct and in particular use of excessive force. I mean, we could add a whole bunch of things there, but excessive force seems to be the.
Norton, I just want to repeat that. Assure accountability for officers' conduct and in particular.
Misconduct.
I'm sorry.
For officers' misconduct
Misconduct
and in particular use of excessive.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And I'm wondering if that's the one, if it's not in here, the requirement to report such behavior by other officers.
Well, we could add H.
Is that in here somewhere, the requirement to report
It's in that
misconduct?
draft that you read, right?
But it's not in the.
No.
But it's not in here?
When here is what, which document you're?
Well, I'm looking at our recommendation.
And all that stuff.
And we're amending.
That's online in the, right now, it's in the police standard operating procedures, so.
So it's already there, so if
Right.
we wanted to add it to
You're
the
saying
maybe
we
already
provide-
addressed, we could, but maybe we don't need to.
Yeah.
If it's already there.
As long as people know it's already
Yeah, and actually, I think that's gonna be the go-to document. I mean,
Mhm.
and that's where we should direct people rather than to our recommendations to
Right.
find out what's been accomplished.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, then I'll make the motion with those, just those two additions to.
Did you have more you wanted to share?
No, that was,
Oh,
well, no, that's all I have for this
okay.
All right.
provision.
I'll
We need-
second it.
Yeah. You made the motion, and we got a second. All those in favor of adding the F and G, so just stated, to the number 3 recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Again, I keep repeating myself, I know. The concept that originally made this draft was a sort of, what I heard was a universal big recommendation to make sure all of the community recommendations are looked at by the city. Given that, and we've identified a few specific, ones, and some of these things are a standard of process. We expect public communication for what's been done and how things are going, et cetera. So I guess what I'm asking is, given Norton's additions, which are also, some of Joe's additions were reflected here, is there anything else that any commissioner feels strongly about that we should include or not, or whatever? Yeah, Lisa?
Yeah, I think, because we mentioned, well, there's a bunch of stuff, to be quite frank, but I think Dave mentioned, 8 abolitionists, did you mention that?
It's 8 to abolition. I
Right,
think,
8
isn't
to
it?
abolitionists, and this, what is it, Project Zero?
Yeah, Campaign Zero.
Campaign Zero. I think those underlying documents should be somewhere so that people could review those and see where this comes from, right? This is not coming out of the air. If we're referring to those documents, I think those documents should be someplace available.
And I know we previously had covered the Campaign Zero document that is gonna be,
Printed out.
part of the
Yeah, packet.
council packet.
Right.
But you may be saying something that's different. Are you referring to in addition?
Well, I don't
attaching-
see
To
this-
attaching the.
Well, what I'm saying, Larry, there's no reference page for this, right? So if I'm just seeing
Well,
this, if this is.
number 4 is.
Well, number 4 refers to Campaign Zero. Do we want to add more references?
Yeah, I think if we're gonna use
Oh,
something
sorry.
like this, that we say what it is, right? Because what if somebody sees these recommendations, they don't know, I get that the city's gonna put it or provide it. I just want us to be clear about that in addition to this 8
Yeah, in fact, I would say, of some of the sources that I've looked at, I think it would be a good idea in number 4 to provide a list of platforms or organizations that the council should consult
Thank you.
in thinking. And I would include, 8 to Abolition is a very interesting one, but also the Poor People's Campaign, I think is probably of all the ones I've looked at, the one that resonates with me, which is not to say it's the best, it's just the one that resonates with me the most.
Right.
And Poor People's Campaign, 8 to Abolition, Campaign Zero, I was trying to think, there was another one,
Well,
Larry, that.
The Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
National group, I think.
Yeah, the
has-
Black Lives Matter, definitely.
Well, if there's, in one of the proposals from the city that we have here, The city manager asks the city council to approve the first resolution on this council agenda, which adopts the set of principles reached between the Illinois NAACP and the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police in 2018. I think that would be a good one to include, probably.
Except what you're reading from is a draft for the
If
future,
it's going to
right?
be, pardon?
It's a draft for the future?
For the council on
For the
July
city council.
Yes,
that's
it's a
next
draft.
It's a draft for the
July
future,
13th,
right, so
correct.
you're reading from it as though it's right now.
No, I'm
That'll
just
be in
saying,
their packet.
I'm just saying the council probably wants to know what that is.
Oh,
Discussion, yeah.
okay,
No,
yeah,
no, no.
yeah.
That's-
Well, or unless they know, I don't know what packet they
Yeah, yeah,
have.
right.
I just think, well, and as a researcher, right, you wanna be able to, if you're gonna refer to this, I should be able to go and find it to see what it is. Who put it together, can, you know, do we trust them, do we know them? Another piece, where we say continue cultural competency training for city staff and police and fire personnel. You know, my experience sitting here, that's not been adequate. So to continue, we probably want to expand as opposed to continue, because we know that that's not been sufficient. We've had that conversation sitting around this table many times. So if we just continue with more of the same, I don't know how we get further down the street. So I think instead of continue, we want to expand and include that bias training. And I don't know if that's housed under cultural competency or not, but I know that it's important.
Okay,
On
that's
page
the E.
2.
The E one?
That's the D one.
No, the D, but the E one is the implicit bias and that training,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
And are they doing anti-racism work now? Because this says ensure. So I don't know if the language matters to that degree. But, I mean, I just think it's clear that we say, but did you say this is a draft earlier?
These recommendations, yeah.
This.
But we're gonna
this-
vote on it tonight.
Yeah, we wanna try.
We wanna
with
make
the-
amendments and
with
vote
the-
on it, yeah.
With the additions and things like that, then eventually I'd like us to get to vote on it. So we will have the document ready for the July 13th council meeting.
And can I make a suggestion in that regard, because Lisa's got additions, Norton just made his additions. If we can make those additions as we go, and then maybe have one single vote at the end.
Yeah.
After somebody can speak up if they want to change it or alter it.
For point of order, what I would suggest is, yes, we do exactly that. At the end, we move
Yeah.
to send this to the city council.
Yeah.
So could we go page by page?
That was my original.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Together.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Joe.
Anything on the first one, that the HRC strongly believes that the city of DeKalb should review all underlined community recommendations in recognition of the need for changes overwhelmingly expressed at our recent community events.
I don't have any changes for that. I just would like to see all. Because I think the document you had earlier was a summation. And there was another, Jason has a list, right? of
Are
all.
you, I'm sorry, Lisa, just so, you're talking about, this is the HRC, this is literally every single comment we heard over the 4 public meetings.
Okay.
Just categorized.
Okay.
That will, so actually, I mean, Mr. Chairman, if I actually have a moment, I would actually kind of like to talk to Lisa's point exactly of, here's the running list I have of what I'm attaching to, not just our minutes, but what I'm attaching to my packet stuff, I have to put in the city council meeting. So please correct me or fix if I'm missing something.
All right.
I have here the HRC full categorization of DeKalb community input. That's this one, Lisa. The 71 different things that Larry put together in the Campaign Zero subcategories.
Okay, let me just add, because there was a question from someone
Oh, I'm sorry.
about
Stop and frisk.
the stop and frisk, and Nadine has a list. So I don't know how some are not on there and some
Okay.
are. So I don't know.
I have no problem adding a few more before we submit it. That's fine.
You will,
I probably, you didn't hear me. I said earlier that obviously we'll get those in.
Yeah.
Okay, so as long as all means all, I'm
Before,
good.
You know.
So I'm sorry, stop all.
By tomorrow, late morning.
Stop and frisk, and what was the second one, so I have?
Well, I don't know, I know that
I
there's
got
a
it.
list.
I got it.
Nadine, you have a list, right?
Yeah.
Nadine has a
And you
list
gave that to Larry?
of
Yeah,
all.
yeah, I have her.
That's what his is based on.
Perfect,
Yeah.
okay, we'll
Yeah.
get that
We
squared
have
away.
all these to add in too.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's fine. So that's the first thing that'll be attached with the updates,
Okay.
as we just indicated. The second will be from Praying with Our Feet,
yes.
the community letter. It'll be John Ray's letter, okay? You have the CNN article that Bessie submitted. We will have the Campaign Zero packet. All right, and then I have the, I'm sorry, is it 8 as in the number 8 or aid to abolition? I'm sorry.
It's 8 is in the number 8
Okay.
to abolition, I think that's.
And I don't know what specific document, I haven't seen that. So
I
David, you
I
can-
basically went to their website and went to their, front page and
That's
read
fine.
their mission and some other things that they had on there.
Do you know why 8?
What's that?
Why 8? What's 8?
8.
Well, I
You
know
know
the number.
why?
Letter A.
Oh,
Is there
it was 8 demands,
Right,
basically.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, and I apologize, I just, that wasn't one I heard until I saw your letter today.
Yeah.
So the PDF that's on there is what you're looking for?
I think.
It's just, it looks like it's 8
Yes.
suggestions or
Yes,
recommendations,
yes,
something
yes,
like that?
yes, that's
Okay,
fine. That'll
so that'll get attached.
Okay.
So those are the 6 things I have currently that I need to add to my backup, minus whatever we say with the HRC, the actual recommendation
Yes.
document.
Yes.
So this is what I'm gonna put as the front of the packet, is
Okay.
whatever your recommendation, comment. Now, David, your letter here, are you going to speak to this on Monday, or is this something
That
coming from the?
that was the plan, and I
Okay,
think,
just double check, so I won't put that, I'll put that in the minutes for this
Okay.
meeting, but I will not submit that on my board
Right.
Okay,
packet.
okay, yes, thank you.
Alright.
And then also, that's still open to discussion if
Okay,
anyone wants something.
just checking. So, yes, the cover sheet will be the HRC recommendations, the 14 or 15. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't have the printed updated one with me, so I'm missing a paragraph, but I know where we're at, I mean, other than that one paragraph's been added, so that's fine. So that'll be my cover one. And then from there, the line that I just stated that'll be the 6 documents afterwards. It'll be attached. So that is my game plan on how to do it. Is that what the commission wants for me to do? And this is where I'm asking, I need direction from the commission so I can do my staff part. Is that what you guys want? Is that what you're looking for? And am I missing something? Other than obviously we need to update stuff, that's
Right,
fine.
right, yeah. Yeah.
I know you've incorporated it into what you've incorporated, but the the Black Lives Matter document itself, I think, makes sense to include with this.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
specific
that's-
DeKalb one, or the overall arching
The
overall?
DeKalb,
Okay,
DeKalb,
thank you.
The Cal-
Yeah, and that's fine. I want to make sure everybody knows that every one of those are in the larger listing of all community
Yeah,
recommendations.
well, are you gonna revise that to include the Jewish Committee's recommendations, or leave that?
I will take everything and put them in that larger categorization
Yeah.
of, the documents, and try to get everything in that I can.
Yeah,
you know,
I would
by
still
tomorrow.
like to include the BLM document as is, just because it's an important document in this process.
Okay, is that all right?
I agree.
Okay, so we're gonna add,
If I can, I don't wanna take too long on this, I mean, we've already taken a long time, but I certainly agree that we should pass along all the community recommendations, I have no problem with that. But there is one specific recommendation, that for me is a little bit like biting into tinfoil. And it's.
Like what?
A little bit like biting into tinfoil.
Oh, okay.
And that is, and I reworded it some in what I wrote in our specific recommendations under number 3. And that is replace officers with social workers as first responders. Now, Now, in the version we're sending on, for nonviolent mental health, drug, and public nuisance cases, yeah, public nuisance is my language there, because, you know, if somebody's playing music too loud 3 doors down, I don't think we need to send officers to that. But I do have some real problems with the community recommendation that we not send officers on domestic violence calls, domestic abuse calls. It just said domestic, because it took a long, long time to convince our entire legal system that beating up your wife or your partner or your child is a crime. It's not just something where you say, well, you don't want to press charges, you know, and so forth and so on. And I'm very, very wary of taking, of backpedaling on that. And I would stand with safe passage on that.
And
So what do you?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Well, I'm just asterisking that. One of the community, where it says here, number 4 on the first page from the HR categorization, blah, blah, blah. Replace officers with social workers as first responders for nonviolent mental health, drug, and domestic cases. Domestic cases, no, I don't agree.
Joe, I think you're on the document.
Yeah, you're on this one,
You're on
not
the
the
full
recommendation.
document.
No. It says, I'm on number 1, where it says, the city of DeKalb should review all community recommendations. And that's
Yeah.
one recommendation.
Right, but there are lots of recommendations in here.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them, the language has been
I just-
changed what I was just suggesting, Joe, was that there are a number of community recommendations, which is
Yeah.
what these are.
Yes.
That we have collected for the city to, I'm just
Yes,
saying
yes,
what my
yes.
understanding
Yeah,
is, not necessarily that you're wrong, but what I understand is, this is as comprehensive a listing as we
Yes.
can get of all the people who zoomed in, who were on town hall, county town hall. I reviewed the last one this morning and looked for, the second one, and looked for duplicates or something new out of the one they had, the most recent county town hall. So this was just pulling all those together.
Oh, no.
And in addition, what I was gonna say is, if we were gonna go through these item by item and say, well, I don't know about this one, or I don't know
Okay.
about that one.
No.
But I think what we're saying is that this is, in a sense, our filter is kind of our
Yeah.
overview of how to approach these, right?
No.
The council is still gonna have to go through these and have exactly the discussion we're having
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
But I don't think it's within our purview to go through and say, well, I don't really like that one because I got a different opinion
Well,
about.
I'm just.
You know what I'm saying? I agree with you.
I'm just saying, I think it's a bad idea. That's all.
And I think there may be more than a couple here that if
Okay.
you looked at them really closely, you might say, I don't know if that's gonna happen or if that's a good idea. But my understanding is that what we didn't wanna do is, if I'm correct, we did not filter these.
No.
Except Joe said these are the ones that he wrote, right? Then you say, these are the ones that I wrote, and number A, where it says.
I took this, I just paraphrased, in our recommendation, I paraphrased that as number A under item 3. And I didn't write domestic cases in there. I
Okay.
changed that to something else, that's all.
So-
We can go on.
Yeah, that was just my reading of
Yeah.
this, is that there's a lot of unfiltered stuff here.
Yeah.
But we're showing respect for the community, which looks to us as a sounding board by saying, here are the things people said. And then in our recommendations, what we're trying to do is say, here's how we think you should approach these recommendations. And one of those recommendations is, don't take anything and just throw it out
Yeah,
up front. Look at it,
right.
see what it means. And I think a serious discussion of that would have the effect that you're making.
Okay.
But I don't think we can asterisk it.
Well, we have 2 city council members here, so I'm good with that.
Yeah, they've heard it. Well, good point.
I think, Joe, another point, and I don't, obviously I don't know this document inside out, is that we should maybe have some room that allows us to look at what local social service agencies suggest and recommend. So when you said I stand with safe passage. You know, maybe we could all stand with safe passage, right, if we knew what it is that they're saying and support that. And so that's a reference point that may not be public, right? So if we were to say, I mean, I don't think it's public. I mean, I don't walk around going, hey, this is what they stand for. I have some general idea, but I don't know, and I'm a counselor, so trust me, I'll support it. But I think if we make a larger statement, and I don't know, perhaps this is embedded, that we certainly want to support the local social service agencies and the work that they do, in addition to support ongoing training for them as well, because we all work together as a community. So that's not taking out the language that you've included, but maybe it is an additional piece.
That's fine.
That I don't, and I'm not aware, because I don't know about heart, is there. Do we say anything to that effect in this?
Well,
Because I think we should.
I think we do sort of, because don't we recommend that the city consult community organizations?
Yeah.
And which number was that? Here, the HRC recommends that the city use resources in the community to assist with the task of reviewing and deciding upon recommendations.
Of which I have written next to it, can you be a little more specific with that?
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
that's my little side
Oh,
note on that one.
You wanna
It's
add
not
like
specific
a
enough.
such as?
I think that's great.
Such as?
Well, we could say social service agencies, and I'm sure there are others. The social service
And you're
agencies include a lot.
specifically referring to our in the community social service
Yeah.
agencies.
Yeah.
Which
Which
ones?
is
Like
in the
what
community's
ones?
already in there, so yeah.
And I would believe that they probably belong to national organizations and county and, you know.
Yeah, both the council and the city has an extensive list of our social service agencies. And I'm confident that by saying such as the community social service agencies, that will
So just,
do
yeah,
that.
social service.
In the interest of time, can we go to number 2? And is there any real change or,
The second line of the second part of that, where it says publicly, which is the word noticed, I don't know what that means.
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure where you are.
Number 2, second
Yeah.
paragraph,
Yeah.
one that isn't bolded, second line.
Second line.
Oh, I see what it is. The Middle States Police changed from warrior culture to one of public guardian.
Can most immediately be, do we mean publicly or
That the
periodically?
public,
Well,
that's one of the things, the public in our community, the average community person will visually see that there's a change going on.
So I think rather than publicly noticed, maybe recognized by the public is where you're going?
Yes.
Norton?
Yes.
One, a public guardian will most, I would say, instead of can most, I would say will most immediately be recognized by the public. Oh, wait a minute, there's a.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you move on, give me 5 minutes, I'll work on this and we'll come back to that
We'll come
sentence.
back
How's
to the
that?
rewording of that.
I'll work on it.
All right, how about number 3? We've had some discussion on number 3.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there any way that after B, where we have prohibit the use of no knock warrants, that we could even just take it right out of the Jewish committee document, that we establish clear criteria for traffic stop and frisk, and that's very important, and I think maybe we should add that.
So you're saying to insert that
Yes.
under B?
Yes, or give it something by itself, but I think it needs to be in there.
Right. I'm suggesting that becomes C.
That would be right, yeah.
And will you give me that wording? I know I've got it, but
Yep, I will.
I'm not,
Of course I
in
will.
the interest of the rain.
I will. Okay.
Okay. Hearing nothing else on 3, how about 4? We had 4.4, at least I wrote in my notes here, that we wanted to refer to the list of other organizations and platforms that we recommend also be consulted. And we started that list with 8 Abolition, Poor People's Campaign, the National BLM, and there may have been one other, and I'm sorry I didn't catch it.
Just campaigns.
Campaign Zero.
Oh, the Campaign Zero, sorry.
Well, and there's the, on the other page, it's the Illinois, it's the statement principles reached between the Illinois NAACP and the Illinois Association of Chiefs and Committees.
Reach between,
The NAACP.
but it's the Illinois chapter.
And the Illinois, the Illinois NAACP and the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police in 2018.
The Illinois Association of Police?
Association of
Association of
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
I'm sorry, say that again.
It's the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police.
Ah. Okay. Got that. All right. How about number 5? Hearing none. Number 6.
In the second line, I would take out the word types.
Second.
If you say all media, that you don't need types.
Okay, so you're saying to restructure that sentence how?
Just take
Take
out
out,
types.
yeah.
Just
Take what out?
types.
Types.
Oh,
After
types,
media.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And 7, I assume that we would greatly appreciate updates at our meetings. It will probably become a standing, old business agenda for many, many occasions. No. Okay. Under number 8, we started to write in a little more. We said after that statement to have such as community social service agencies. Any other massaging of anything there? All right. Number 9.
A very minor point, that second paragraph is bolded and none of the others.
The second paragraph in number 9.
8.
Oh, 8, you're back on 8. Yeah, okay, yeah, and none of the, right, okay, so that should be unbolded. Okay, back to number 9.
I wouldn't capitalize the fifth word of that. If,
I'm sorry, you wouldn't capitalize what?
the word if, the fifth word.
Number 9, first sentence, if, is capitalized.
Oh, is it? Thank you. Gosh, you guys are good. 10 is, for those of you that may not have the document, it's the steps that we're recommending that any investigation or recommendation ought to minimally be doing.
2 minor changes in the second line. There's a semicolon.
Yeah.
I think it could just be a comma.
Just a comma. I don't know if our 2 English professors will agree with that or not.
What was the question? Which one?
Comma after, comma rather than a semicolon after entity.
Which
There's no
number we on?
Number 10,
Number 10.
that first sentence.
HRC recommends.
After small group.
Whether
other
a recommendation is assigned to a staff member, small group, comma, or other entity, or other entity, comma.
Mhm.
I would not semicolon that, but I would put a group after, I would put a comma after small group.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Aren't then that three different things, staff member, small group, or other entity? That's the Oxford comma, keep it, don't do anything in that Oxford comma.
It's fine with me. I do punctuation based on someone reading it and where I think they should pause.
But yeah, I would put.
I don't do the grammatically correct, just so you know.
I don't like that comma, but.
Which
you
one,
can have it.
after small group?
But you-
Oh, you don't like the Oxford comma?
In B, instead of the word discover, I would suggest we put identify.
Man, I'm all for that.
Okay.
We are loosely discovered.
Okay, I'm really done with this here.
Yeah.
I'll get back to you in a second.
Okay. You just don't have any geology training. Everything is discovered.
Or we're dishonest.
Okay, I'm ready whenever you are for number two's changes.
Oh, just a second. And number 11, we want to get rid of that normative attitude. The HRC recommends that the city adopt an operating principle to avoid the outright discarding or discard.
How about if you just say adopt, or avoid? The
Yeah.
HRC recommends the city avoid the outright discarding or discounting of any recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted it to become a part of the city's culture, hence a norm for the city. Okay, all right.
All right, then I would change that the city not discard outright, not discard or discount outright any recommendation because it at first seems impossible. So make it an imperative, don't leave any wiggle
Okay.
room.
All right, so we'll strike that. So it's that the city not discard or discount
And you don't
any
need out,
of
you
the
don't need outright.
recommendations because it at first seems impossible.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. 12, the HRC also strongly recommends the police department not immediately reject the consideration of any recommendation.
Lowercase n for not.
I would suggest we change that to not be allowed to veto the consideration of any recommendation. Or not be allowed to
What I like reject is the veto assumes they're at the next stage of voting almost, and that they are not going to just reject considering anything right at the go-get.
Right, and I would say not be allowed to reject the consideration.
Yep.
Yeah, and I dropped the word immediately because that puts a kind of a false right. We're not gonna reject it right today. Wait till tomorrow, we'll reject it tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Number
Larry, do
13.
we have to keep, yes, some ideas might be difficult and I'm like.
You'll have to refer me to where we are.
We're still
It's
on
under paragraph
12.
number.
At the top where you say, yes, some ideas and changes may be difficult. Do we
Probably
have
don't
to-
need
It's like the rationale for number 12, under 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you see it?
Do you
Yeah.
just like the word yes or the whole sentence?
Well, why are we saying that? Like,
Sounds a little
what
creepy.
is it?
What?
Right here.
Oh, that's why I'm not. Oh, I was on the wrong page, okay, sorry. So what would you suggest?
I would say in number 12, I would say what you want to say in that first sentence is, this is particularly significant with regard to any changes that will require contract negotiations. In other words, that's where the rubber's going to meet the road on the idea of rejecting recommendations.
Okay.
And then I don't think you need,
The yes sentence?
I don't think you need the whole thing.
I think then you would just maybe start over with the culture of police, the culture, I mean, what you're saying there is something about the power of police unions to snuff out reform.
Sure.
That's what you're after. And, I would maybe just simply say, our police unions must be, responsive to, I would just say, yeah, our police unions must be responsive to calls for reform.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah.
That better?
Mhm.
And then leave all the other stuff out.
Okay. All right, thank you, Nadine. Okay, 13, we're almost done, everybody.
I'm not sure what the force of 13 is exactly.
Yeah, why even say it?
And you guys will have to help me, since I'm trying to write in all the changes, where exactly?
Number 13?
Number 13, yeah,
You're talking about the whole recommendation, or am I misunderstanding?
The whole one, yep.
Yeah, because on the one hand, we're not making these recommendations to the community, correct? We're making them to the.
I mean, you get, the intent of this group, as well as all the commissions, is you advise the council on what they should be doing.
Right.
So, correct.
So
You're
we're
not
making
advising the
these,
community,
we're recommending
you're advising
these
council, yeah.
to the council, not the community. So I'm not sure what the force of 13 is. It may not be needed, is what I'm suggesting maybe.
It was, I think, originally along with acknowledging some of the difficulties. And to acknowledge that doesn't just take the city. There's a whole community, that's all, and that's a point well taken.
We might replace it with something that says, we recommend something to suggest that the recommendations be implemented as quickly as
With all due
possible.
speed,
In a
yeah,
timely
yeah.
manner.
That's to flip it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that the recommendations be implemented in a timely manner?
I would say as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah.
Quick question, not to move on to the next, but doesn't the next one kind of say timeliness in exactly that?
Yeah, yeah,
Not-
so
not
maybe 13 is, maybe we dropped that, we were gonna elaborate 14 a little bit to include publication of timelines. I'm kind of thinking that maybe 13, you're right, that 14
Not
kind of
to-
says it, yeah.
Yeah, not to change anything, but just saying, the next one,
Yeah.
kind of the same thing, what you guys are changing
Yeah.
13 to. Maybe change up 14 a little bit if you don't feel it doesn't fit perfectly,
Okay.
but that's what you're looking at.
So it's.
But I think we still could say something to the effect that
Yes.
you should approach this as quickly as.
Maybe that could be the beginning of 14, these recommendations should be adopted, with all, what did you say? You had the right one.
Just as quickly as
As
possible.
quickly as, these recommendations should be considered and adopted as quickly as possible. And then just skip the finally, and then start with it is recommended that an action plan be developed to prioritize the recommendations with timelines, and that staff or what's groups?
Well.
Staff
we've
or
talked about-
committees?
Go back to
committees?
12, yeah.
Staff or committees. That's what I think, right?
Well, we've talked about.
It could be. some
Be assigned.
outside.
Stakeholders, maybe?
Yeah, well, I mean, committees could include stakeholders, certainly.
Yeah, but not all stakeholders are.
Number 10 talks about groups, small groups.
Yeah.
So if we change this, we should change.
And then 10C goes to stakeholders, so it starts with a large and it gets kind of specific.
Where are you seeing this? Which one is that number?
Number 10, under.
Share the
C,
information
share the
with all
information with all
stakeholders.
stakeholders.
C under 10. Let me see if I captured this. The 13, rather than just striking it, to make it state the HRC recommends that the sorry.
That the city
That
police
is-
department.
No, I'm on number 13.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking,
That these recommendations be implemented as quickly as possible.
I think they should be considered and adopted as quickly as possible.
and I would just begin 14, which would now become 13, unless you don't want 13.
I think he's holding on to 13.
No, what you just read is the first sentence of
14.
13.
Right.
Right.
And then 14 is the second.
So you can, I mean, you can keep both numbers in if you want to, you're just kind of splitting them up. Both go to the issue of timeliness, right?
All right, so we're adjusting 13 to have the recommendations considered and adopted, or do you want implemented as quickly as possible?
I think implemented is stronger, actually.
Yeah, because
Something's happening.
Okay. All right. Okay. And then finally, we had originally added in that the prioritization referenced before it, the prioritized recommendations be made public.
The prioritized recommendations and their timelines for completion should be made public.
Okay, and their timelines for,
The recommendation, and their timelines be made public.
be made public.
Yeah.
Right, I'm sorry. That's what it was, yeah, be made public, okay. Okay,
And then do you want number 2 as rewritten?
oh, yes, thank you. for
Okay, I
that.
kind of went back and massaged this whole paragraph a
Okay,
little bit.
great,
So,
great.
and maybe, let's see, Jason, are you typing? Because you could probably type this faster before Larry would have to write it all down. Because I just rewrote the whole thing. Okay. Demilitarizing the police and shifting from a warrior culture to a guardian culture will have an immediate impact on the public's perception of our police force.
On
Nice.
demilitarizing the police and shifting from a warrior culture to guardian culture. Say that again.
Will
Sorry.
have an immediate impact.
Maybe you can make a copy of this and give it to me.
It's almost done, I mean, we're never done. You got that much?
Yes, sir.
Have immediate impact on the public's perception of our police force. Then, let's see, the community, cut the whole sentence there, I'm cutting everything down to the word there in 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences down, you see the community in the middle of the sentence. Start the sentence there. The community has seen the positive outcomes from our police department's involvement in various community projects. And then, for example, that all stands.
Okay, the community, starting the sentence, the community has seen the positive outcomes
From our police departments, not outcomes that have come, but just outcomes from
from our police department's involvement in various
community projects.
Subjects, okay.
And then the last sentence says, more community involvement through more comprehensive, rather than a larger, more comprehensive community, through a more comprehensive community policing model will have a positive impact and engender trust in our community. It's still over. What's that?
Have a positive impact, what did you say?
We'll have a positive impact and engender trust. And I would just stop there. You don't have to say community again. Just say engender trust.
David, small point, back up a little bit. The community has seen the positive outcomes, or our community has seen the positive?
Ours better.
Yep.
Okay.
Ours better.
Good call. Okay, our community has seen positive outcomes from our police departments, more community involvement through
A more
a more comprehensive community policing model will have a positive impact and engender trust.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
One last, in that last paragraph, if I may.
Mhm.
Experience has shown.
Yeah.
Knowing residents by name may, rather than may have a lasting impact, may transform.
How about may have residents by name?
May transform police-community relations.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay, great.
I have a few things on the very first page. The introductory page.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Right, I have to go back to this. Right, okay.
Before the recommendations.
Yeah.
Got it?
Okay.
In the second line, it should be have, not has.
What document?
This is the cover page that goes to our recommendations that we've just gone through.
It's part of the document, this one too.
Right?
Yeah, it's just the front one.
It's just the front one.
Says human relations community.
I know, I've got it somewhere.
Okay.
Hey, Dave, check
Here
your
it is.
left
I
foot.
think
I
it's
was
right
gonna
here.
say, you dropped something at your left.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, that's not it.
Okay,
That's
I
not
don't
it.
remember now.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Who was focusing on the second something?
Norton.
The second line, the word has should be have, because the subject is 2 recent months. It just, it's so far away. And I'm surprised the English professors didn't.
I'm sorry, I'm still not finding where you are when you say second.
After police on the second line.
Second line, word has
Oh,
should be
Yeah,
have.
you're right.
Okay, in the middle of the
That's still good.
second paragraph, we say that we are making recommendations to reduce the violence, and I'm not sure that's, there is violence throughout the country, but I'm not sure
It-
for DeKalb, that's what we're
It
trying
was
to.
really, it meant to be referring, I think, to the police violence.
Oh, well then let's say police.
Okay.
You don't have to.
You can take out the "the." and
All
just-
right.
And then at the end of that paragraph, I wouldn't have an exclamation point, I don't like it.
You don't like it?
Well, I like them in emails, but I don't like them
You
in
don't like
official documents.
Wait a minute. What?
Yeah. Okay.
2 more things. This third paragraph, the DeKalb community is to be recognized, I would say commended.
Okay. I had 3 different words I used.
And finally, in the middle of the 4th paragraph, capital V. It doesn't need to be capital. Therefore, V.
Oh, yeah, it should.
Just that line.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I actually have one comment. In the third paragraph, it's the first time we say HRC. Did you want to spell it out originally? Because if we go to our last paragraph, we then spell it out as Human Relations Commission. Would you like the first one to be spelled out properly, put in parentheses, HRC? Small technicality, but
No,
we
no,
don't really
that's
explain what
Yeah,
it is.
first
Yeah,
instance,
that's
yeah,
important.
first instance.
Yeah.
So that's in the third paragraph, you use HRC for the first time, so maybe make that Human Relations Commission and then put parentheses HRC, because you say it a few more times throughout the document.
Yeah.
Sorry, small technicality.
Oh, good.
No.
Good catch.
And that was the third paragraph or the second? Third.
Like I am or something.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, good.
If we're done, I'll make a motion to approve what we've just done.
Second.
Yeah. So we've motioned and seconded to approve the HRC Commission recommendations as modified by the group. All in favor, aye?
One quick thing,
Wait,
Norton meant to also say, and submit them to the city council, right? That was on your,
Oh,
that was on your
yeah.
motion?
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, just double checking.
Yeah.
No, we were
Yeah.
highly.
Good catch.
I know that's what he meant, but let's clarify that. Okay, go ahead, now you can
All
vote.
those in favor of said motion with Jason's addition of the city council, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, okay.
Before you end then, Mr. Chairman, I want to run through this one more time from a staff perspective, just to make sure I have everything right in the
Okay,
commission itself.
can I say something before you do?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think that there were also some points that were raised when we first started talking about taking advantage of technology like Zoom. So I wanna, ask that we begin to do that,
Okay.
because that's something that we can do. Now, I don't know, I mean, I can make a motion, but I don't know if we can or should or do, however that process works, so that people in the community are not left out. And I think about, as I work with the university, in the event that somebody is impacted by COVID, they couldn't come, but they could still have access
Right.
without hearing it,
Right. Yeah.
next week and have to listen to everybody to. So I would hope that we can incorporate that. Now, that may be a city thing, I don't know, city people, but I certainly would like for that to be.
I think we could, I mean, I don't know why we couldn't set parameters for our own meetings in terms of, and I think the venue was a good point as well. I'd actually thought about that the first meeting we had, that this was maybe not the most
Oh, yeah.
appropriate
No,
venue for the circumstances.
Yeah.
Is the library open? Is the council meeting in the library?
It will be,
We only had it
yes.
on Monday nights.
But if
So-
we do a Zoom meeting, it'll solve the space issue.
Well, yeah, that's, one thing I do want to say of that from a city, it's more of a city resource. The public library, our agreement with them is for planning and zoning meetings as well as city council meetings to be there on Mondays. It's not an option for other commissions. It wasn't worked into the contract. We would have to pay for it. We just realistically don't have the funds for that. But,
Okay.
I can try to assess facilities and see where we're at,
Okay.
I mean, the airport might be an option. I don't know that as a fact, but I can, let me talk with the city manager
Yeah.
and see if there's other venues we might be aware of, or
Okay.
aware of, or
Alright.
something like that, but
Sure.
I would have to look at it from my,
Okay.
yeah.
I just want
Yeah.
us to,
So,
again, take heed to the comments. I do
Right.
think it's something that we can accommodate.
Mhm.
I don't know, again, the logistics of where and what's
Yeah, right.
available, but
but
I think.
I think your motion then is that you would move that our
So-
future HRC meetings be
Accessible.
Zoom, accessible.
Accessible to the community, and if that means Zoom, that means Zoom. If that means Teams, that means Teams. I don't wanna limit it
Okay.
to a forum, but I do want public access.
Mhm.
And I believe that we're capable of doing that in some way.
I can talk to our IT department and the city manager, yeah. That, I don't know they really need it as a motion. I think that's just a procedural thing that I can work on from a staff
Okay.
side.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
But
Okay.
I take it under advisement and understand what you guys are asking for.
Beth, you were going to,
Yes, I'd like to real quick run through and make sure I
Oh,
have this
that's
right. So, and Larry, this is where I'm gonna first ask, are you finishing the edits and sending these to me tomorrow morning? This is the actual official recommendation that we just went through.
Yes.
So you're gonna send this to me by tomorrow morning, I have to have this to the manager by 10 a.m.
I will take everything I've got written, and if I,
All right, we can talk in the morning, that's
Yeah,
fine, I'll call you in the morning.
we'll-
That's fine. So-
Before you run through your list.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, can I say, I want to be fair about this. Is there something that somebody wants changed about this? that I
what
read?
is this?
The Black Lives Matter piece.
Yeah, the introduction.
The introduction that David read.
Yeah, and I want, and you're not gonna hurt my feelings if you say.
Well, let's talk about what, you
No.
plan to introduce this?
Well, basically,
This?
this goes, in a sense, you know, the last paragraph is, the Human Relations Commission offers its recommendations in the hope that the leaders of the city of DeKalb will seize this moment to play their part in creating a more just community in which all citizens feel equally supported, equally safe, and equally valued. Thank you. So that's the last word before we move into the actual business of
The nitty-gritty,
presenting.
just reviewing the stuff.
The reviewing, yeah.
So David, you're
But do
talking,
we
you're talking your letter, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and I meant this as an introduction to our work.
But do you plan to?
I will be there to
say that.
To present it.
And thank you for bringing up this, because it reminds me of something. If Dave then turns to me and has me briefly review the larger document and then spend a little bit more time just on our recommendations, then I know Dave and I talked, and I think you guys talked, would love to have Lisa come in, and one of the two of us will leave because we don't want to violate the Open Meetings Act, and do a summary, a brief summary that I think you're really qualified to be the one to do.
What qualifies her?
She's an individual that's on our commission that we used to have more individuals of different racial, ethnic backgrounds. We've lost some members, and the reason we were talking about that is that I don't want this to be presented to the community as the all-white males, you know what I mean? And
What's it?
Yeah, and
What am I, chopped liver? Is that what?
That's okay.
you know, so it was just,
So because she's black,
well, at this point, she's the only individual of diversity we have.
Well, I wanted to ask,
Well,
I just wanted to
Probably,
ask.
let me just be clear, probably that I don't know that that's true. I do think that obviously I am black, and I own it, I'm proud of it, you know, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. And I'm not opposed to that, given that I sit on the HRC and I have a perspective. However, after tonight, and after all of the time that it's taken, and after all of the representatives that are here, and all of the information, I don't really know what's left to be said, to be quite frank.
Okay.
And if people are like me, you know, you got an idea, and you got, I don't know how many documents. I don't know that there's anything that I can say, really as a black woman, that has not been said,
Okay.
and that I've not already said. To be clear, I would hope that the city, and I just say it now, I just hope that the city council and the committees, everybody, et cetera, just takes this information to heart. And based on the draft for what's coming, my sense is they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to go on unnecessarily. I'm about done right now. I've been working all day long.
Yeah.
Well, then do we
So
need
trust me.
this?
Yeah, you can make that decision.
Well, no,
You
I'm
did.
asking the commission, and that's an
Oh.
honest question. Because really, because what you said makes sense. And I, you know, I did feel it was important to read this tonight. Like I said, I think there are a lot of constituents out there who kind of want to know that we're not just list makers.
And I totally agree. I think that the passion that you have in that is very important to communicate to city council and to the people of the city. I think, you know, we've had a great number of people out on the streets, quite a lot, and, you know, in the heat and so forth, and they, you know, are engaged, and that's a very good thing, and I think to communicate the sense that at least some of their passion is contagious, and that it hasn't, and that, you know, we're not just,
Well, and probably
we're
I
not just
responded to
robots
that.
sitting
I
here
mean,
at
that's
tables. It's not a
probably
bad idea.
my response to that. But like I said, I want to be, and, yeah, I write for a living, so I can write something else. But I mean, it was heartfelt, that's for sure. But I want to make sure it's representative.
Yeah.
And not also superfluous to our mission. That's what I'm getting.
Let me just say, I'm always concerned about, I don't know if you all see presentations, right, where people have PowerPoints, and they read the PowerPoint.
Right.
So the people already have a copy of this. And so he's gonna get up there and read this in addition to them already having a copy. Already actually having read it, right, because they won't get it that night. They will get it when they get the packet.
Yeah, Lisa, it'll go out Thursday in the afternoon, early evening.
Was this part of the packet?
Yeah.
No, I didn't think it was.
No, I'm sorry. Dave's letter is not. Everything else is.
No.
Oh, okay.
It won't be
Dave's letter will
repetitious. No.
At least that was my understanding.
Yeah, well, now I recall our conversation now. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you're saying, that would
That's
be
right.
read fresh.
Dave is merely wanting to make sure the commission is okay with that being an opening statement. It's not gonna be sent in advance.
I think it's more effective if it's not, too. I mean, quite honestly.
You think what?
I agree with you that if people had had a week to read this, or 3 days to read it, or 4 days to read it, and then, okay, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna read to you this letter that you've already had for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
But if they haven't seen it before, I think that's a good way to start.
Well, I'm not opposed to that.
No.
I just think, you know, and maybe it's as I get older, man. As I get older, time is important. And, I like to talk and I like to hear as
Yeah.
much, but I'm not opposed to Dave doing it.
Yeah.
But I do think sometimes we have to provide information and allow it just to kind of ferment, but I'm not opposed to you doing that.
Well, and like I said, I'm not gonna have my feelings hurt either way. I just wanna know whether y'all think this would be effective as a way of presenting our report. If not, I'm happy to say, you know, I read it tonight and I'm fine.
You got applause, my friend.
There's somebody-
We
somebody.
want to be persuasive.
As a community member who heard it, I think it needs to be said.
Okay.
And I think it doesn't just need to fall on deaf ears of the council, it needs to be said, the public needs to hear that that is what's coming from the council. So
Okay.
yes, please read it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think it should come from you, it doesn't need to come from someone just because they're black.
This wasn't gonna come from me.
Just saying,
Just to
it's
be
just
clear.
as effective if
Yeah,
you read it.
yeah.
You did a great job earlier, read it yourself.
Okay.
Everybody else cool with that?
Dave will
I am
proceed.
concerned that we take too much of the council's time. I mean, they may be turned off after, if we take half an hour or something. So if you're gonna do a summary of the recommendations, I would suggest that they be as brief as.
Yes. Yes.
Can we not do a summary? If they're gonna have that, why can't we just ask if they have questions of you?
I was not planning on dwelling on it. I was simply
Mayor,
going.
you got it.
I'm sorry. Yes.
The only question is that people who have not attended this meeting or seen what's coming forth, if that's their first time, it's gonna be the first time they're hearing it. So I think a summary at the least would be helpful.
I mean, it is another forum. The council meeting will be a new forum.
Yeah.
And it's well taken.
But I think any of us, as well as our two council persons present, know the council meetings can go longer than even ours, so.
But- well,
I
except that-
I think any review I do, because everybody's got the document, I'll do it.
We have the draft of what's going to be presented to the city council, and it is a call to order and a roll call and approval of the agenda, public participation and consideration. And as far as I know, this is the only thing that's at that meeting.
Correct,
This is a meeting about
This
this.
is it, that's what I was, that's
it.
what I
This isn't-
envisioned, and that's
This
what.
isn't item
again,
number 3 on
Yeah.
an agenda of 16 different things.
Yeah, that's what I
So-
envisioned, so.
And again, that is the draft for the committee of the whole meeting, which is the hour to discuss. It's different from the actual city council meeting. That's their discussion time. It's a little bit more relaxed in that sense. So that is for the cow. And again, that'll be published in late afternoon on Thursday. And as you guys see, that's a draft. As Bill indicated earlier, there's been some additions. He's added some more to it than what you've even seen. So that there is more. So that was a courtesy to just explain what we are doing so far.
But this is the meeting of the whole, our part of?
No, well, yeah, the committee of the
The
whole.
meeting of the whole is
Is
considered.
this the
yeah.
consideration of this?
But then there's a meeting after that? Or
Correct.
that's the meeting?
Well, no. So the committee of the whole is where they're gonna discuss it. It's a discussion period for this topic.
Oh, okay.
Then the city council meetings where all the actions go for like the actual ordinances, resolutions, things along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, and I've never seen this in the Daily Chronicle, but it would be lovely if they published your,
Oh, well, I'd be happy to send it in, well, I mean, whatever.
You don't have to send it in, you just have to hand it over.
but I mean, it's too long for a letter to the editor, I assume.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, do that in lieu of reading it at the?
no.
Okay.
In addition to.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be glad to provide it. I'll give them a copy and they can decide what they want to do with it.
Yeah.
You could also publish it as a statement of the committee to let the world know what you guys are thinking
Well,
and
and
feeling.
that's kind of what I was, and that's why I wanted everybody in on it. I didn't want to, write something and then just say, okay, I wrote it, and say it. I mean, if it reflects the passions that I've seen in this group, which I think it does.
I think so.
Then I think it would be a good thing to get our passions out there in a way that reflects the passions we felt from the community. And I think there's something healing about that. It tells them we're hearing them.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's kind of what I'm after.
Okay.
And I think somebody else said something,
Betsy?
about setting that cultural tone in the
Oh,
community.
yes. Yes.
I had a procedural question. It's good that this is going to be handled in a cow meeting, because then you get to devote that in a more relaxed session, get to devote all of the points that have been discussed and so on and so forth. Then it's going to be followed by the regular council meeting. Are there any items that are going to be on there that deal with some of what has been discussed? Any action items, any ordinances that are HRC, BLM related?
I can take that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I would have to ask the city manager. I have not
Yeah.
seen the draft agenda of what that is. I do know it was on the cow, but I would have to ask. So I couldn't tell you at this moment. I don't want to give you false information.
Yeah.
No, but the reason I'm asking is, the council is going to have a lot of information. And if they get, which they should have at the cow meeting, but are they going to be asked to act on anything at the subsequent meeting, which is that same night? And is that too much for them to absorb and handle and go through type of a thing? And having said that, will there be other cow meetings where this topic could be discussed? That's exactly what the cow meetings are for, to discuss specific items. Because you're not gonna get through everything in 1 hour, type of thing. I'm just putting that out there, because you don't wanna put the council in a position where they're gonna have to try to absorb 42 pages worth of information, in addition to 50 million other 1,000 pages that they have to, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe, kind of?
Bessie, I'm not aware that any of us have an intention to overwhelm.
Yeah, no,
You know what I mean?
that's not you, it's,
We're, We'll
That's a
just
staff
try
question.
to, at the public meeting, with the David's opening statement, and we'll just briefly go over the document that attempted to have all the recommendations, and then we'll simply indicate that the HRC had in with it, which we know everyone received, the actual HRC recommendations. And I think because many individuals haven't heard them, we probably should briefly try to read them, and that's it.
Hopefully there will be subsequent opportunities to do that
Right.
as well.
And thank you, because the other thing is, and I think Jason knows this, I've urged the city, I always call it, give away all the secrets. I've urged the city to, for instance, with this packet that's going out, and it lists all these things about what changes have been made. I think it's very important that at a council meeting, those get reviewed. It's not our place necessarily. We can certainly mention that we've heard that there's been some good things done. But I'm hoping that there'll be a little bit of time that the city manager will update, and it's certainly in the packet. So if it's in the packet, he normally just mentions and then, da-da-da-da. But I hope he'll spend a little bit of time on that.
I'm gonna make a motion that we adjourn to.
Hold on, I need to make sure I know what I need to present
Well,
to kids.
Okay.
Sorry, Joe.
No, that's all right. I think we're micromanaging the city council meeting next week,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
don't think that's our job.
Yeah, then let me go through this and then I'll keep my mouth shut and we can go from there. So, okay, again, when Larry and I will finish this tomorrow with all the additions, this is the actual recommendation with the 14 or 13 points if we deleted the one. So that'll be the cover letter, essentially, quote unquote, to what's on the packet. From there, the second thing will be the full HRC categorization of DeKalb community input. So it'll be all 71 or whatever amount of recommendation is. And again, we will update it with the couple things, Lisa, that you said, and the couple things Nadine said. So that'll be the two things that are updated by me and Larry by tomorrow morning. Will be the HRC, the 71 list one, and then the actual recommendation. So Larry and I will finish those out. We have approved them with the additions that we have. So we'll get those two things added. The third will be from the Praying with Our Feet organization. That'll be the third thing. Then the John Ray's letter. The next one will be the CNN article that Bessie provided us. And I'll try to find an online version of this that I can get. The Campaign Zero document, which is the 42-page document, I will find that. It's online. I know that. I just have to download it. The sixth one is the 8 to Abolitionist. Yes?
Abolition.
Yeah, I have that already. I got that. And then the the 8th one, I apologize. Just said 8, but no, the actual 8th document will be the Black Lives Matter specific to DeKalb demands. So that sheet I sent out, it's here somewhere.
Yeah.
It's in front of me in one of these pages, but yes. So that's everything that I intend to have in my backup piece that I'm telling Bill, this is what the HRC has recommended and said. Have I forgotten anything that you guys have wanted, or is that exhaustive of what you were looking for?
I think that's it. I do. With that in mind.
And then I'll keep my piece, and that's good.
No, thank you.
We are at our adjournment phase. I just want a personal privilege to say one thing. There is a strong possibility that I am not going to be around during the month of August. My wife is going in for auto stem cell transplant. And unlike some other procedures that might be the week in the hospital and then, you just go to recover at home, this requires her to be 3 weeks in the hospital down in Loyola and followed by being quarantined at a local hotel for 2 weeks, at which yours truly is doing all the cooking, et cetera, and whatever personal aid stuff needs to be done. I'm not sure I'm even gonna be responding much to emails or whatever.
No reason you should be.
It's a real full-time,
Yeah.
24-hour clock. If that turns out to be, and I will know it probably tomorrow, I'll certainly let everyone know. So-
We often don't meet both July and August.
Yeah, I know.
So we could skip.
Yeah, but I hate for this group to delay any momentum. What we hear from the city council, you know, you guys need to go ahead, you know, and we can.
We will.
can
We will
get
go ahead with that.
Interim chair or whatever.
We will go ahead with that.
Finally, I would love to second the motion to adjourn. All in favor of adjournment and thanking our audience and staff that have been here for so long.
Thank you very much.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, all opposed,
Thank you
right.
very much.
Thank you all.
And I hope all goes well.
We knew that working meeting was coming up, right?
Yes.
We're not gonna
It's, she's so weak. We just can't.